was giving snark to people. It's like, ah, you're not the real fans. Actually, the real fans are the tourists.
I do indeed know about that, yes. In fact, I have the tweet up on screen right now. That was mildly embarrassing right there, yes.
Are we live?
We are.
Oh, hello.
I told you.
I didn't get that, so. But it's fine. It's fine. I didn't say any gamer words, so.
Yet.
I never say gamer.
But indeed, fake Saints Row fans when the woke reboot is a financial success and Volition doesn't go out of business. Well, that did indeed age like fine milk.
Oh, show the picture of. Hold on, I'll need to give it to you. So let's look at the Saints Row. It's not the trailer, but they had like the presentation thing with the characters. Which one is this? Is it 6?
Actually, before that, I have a rebuttal to make, actually, here. Because, of course, they use Homelander to show this off. Our boy Homelander. Homelander is a really good villain that they've done a lot to ruin, and I just so happen to have a decent rebuttal to hand with this.
Get loud for me. Get loud for me.
And that's a copyright claim right there, but I don't even care, frankly, because Archlander is great.
Okay, I found the thing. Let me give it to you. Copy image address. All right, put this on the screen a little bit. There's so much to unpack here.
All right, put it in the link channel.
I did. The link.
The link channel, yes.
Yeah.
The same channel we've used all these many years. Oh, yes. Ah, yes. The
So let's see how many woke tropes does this picture have. You got the female characters that have masculine body language. Like the way the girl on the left is saying, like that's how a dude stays. Women don't sit like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, no,
And
like
then-
you've got the male female.
Yes, the male female, short hair, broad shoulders, the masculine jawline, like the works, right? Then you have the castrated black male trope, which is something that I notice a lot in TV shows for some reason. I don't know why. Like, especially in an action game, it doesn't make sense. Like, why is he, covering his balls like that with a very, like trying to make himself small, trying to make himself tiny, inoffensive. They put glasses and they put a bow tie on him to make him look like as inoffensive as possible.
Well, the charitable interpretation of this is that he's more along the lines of the Nation of Islam stereotype from like the 80s.
Yeah, but like almost all black characters now are like this, right? There's nothing wrong with having a black character that behaves like this. Like, it's fine. But when you notice it everywhere, like, I see black people on Twitter starting to ask, like, why is this being done constantly? It's in every show.
Well, it's probably because he's supposed to be the geeky character. And they're like, well, we can't have the white geeky character, so we gotta make him black.
Yeah, it's like, there used to be like the theme that the black guy dies first in a slasher film or a horror movie. And now it's like almost every single time the black guy is the geeky one. The black woman is usually the hyper... Yeah, the black woman is usually the masculine one in entertainment in America. And
then you also have I dislike the second female character because she overlaps with the black character now because she's also the hyper competent tech chick. It's like, okay, you have two characters now who do the same thing. Why?
Yeah, and finally the last trope, the hyper sexualization of the guy, right? So like all the other characters, all the women are desexualized as much as possible, and the man, he's shirtless. You can see his underwear, and he's got abs. Like, the women aren't allowed to look like the statue of Venus, right? Because that's like, go watch porn, you bigot. But the men have to look like the statue of Venus.
Yes,
Oh.
that was actually very obvious in the game as well, because he never puts a shirt on. Like, he is there to be the attractive character. Meanwhile, the females, of course, don't. It's the
Wait,
entire
Arch,
idea of
did you
my
play?
fetish good, your fetish bad.
Did you play this shit?
God, no.
Well, how do you know he never puts the shirt on?
I watched Dev play it.
Oh my fucking god. Okay. See, every single day I think like I can't lose any more respect for Dev, and then I get hit with something like this.
I have
Something
lost.
like this.
Shit.
But yeah,
Meanwhile,
no, it's
you
like
do have the comparison to the original Saints Row. This was the third, I believe, where it's the complete opposite, where you have
Service guarantees
all of the characters look fit in some way. And this is even the more like porned up version of them as well, from Saints Row the Third, which was a bit more almost like fantasy-esque, because Saints Row 1 was basically a GTA clone, but with a pinch more personality. 2 took it a little bit further in the direction of, comedy satire. And 3, they fully embraced that shit and just went mad with it.
even the fat guy is muscular.
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's
Yeah.
he's
And-
enormous. He's the bodyguard.
And you literally do not see women like that in advertisement, in video games, like at all.
No, they do not exist in modern day entertainment.
I wanna show you something else. So hold on, give me a second. Now that we're talking about women, because a lot of people when they talk about sexy women, they will always bring up anime, right? But I want to show you something that I have realized, and I'll put it in the link channel in a bit. And you need to see if it's fine. I think it's fine. I don't see any boobies here because it's from Google. But just double check for the. What I want to show is that this used to be an art style that the West used to have, and we don't have it anymore. Like, hold on, let me cut the Night Elf Chica so that there's absolutely no doubt that it's safe.
You're entirely sure it's safe. I also want to point out some of the cool little in jokes as well here, like the wrestler. He was voiced by Hulk Hogan, which was pretty awesome.
Really?
Yep. One of the female bodyguards was voiced by Sasha Grey, which is quite the thing as well. And Johnny of Gat, of course, was voiced by Daniel Day Kim, I think he's called. Like, they got some really good voice actors, and the game just... Like, Saints Row the Third, even today, is goddamn a cool video game.
Oh, Dev is here.
Wow.
Hello, sorry for being late. Well, how's it going, guys?
It's kind of good. So like, try and put the last one on display. And my point is that this used to be an art form that the West used to have, and it was specific to the West, and we don't have it anymore. And look how these characters are just oozing with personality. Like Lady Adabeth, which is like the third from the left. Like, even if you don't like her body and you don't, don't find her attractive or whatever, but like, you can see she's a magical creature. Like, she is radiating with magic, and you'd love to be in an adventure with her, to like be attracted to her world because it looks so fucking awesome. And the West just doesn't make that anymore.
It's because we can't have attractive characters anymore. It's literally something that is verboten in the modern day era. And I want to point out too, like, there were times in the past where we also had the idea of like realistic adventuring characters. Like that did happen for a little while as well, back in the very origins of gaming, like Baldur's Gate, original Baldur's Gate. Like, Viconia de Vir was hideous in the original Baldur's Gate, but it was quickly established. Oh no, she was.
Let me check. Hold on.
I'll show it to you right here.
I played the game recently, and she's actually my romance thingy.
God damn it! Why
So
won't it
did
copy
did
that
I miss the
fucking
start
link?
of the? Did I miss the start of the Saints Row conversation? What'd you guys think of the whole Saints
We're
Row
just
death
talking
thing?
about the female characters now, and the character design is obviously, well, cut in the air, shall we say?
I mean that's Viconia de Vir, Arch. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, it is literally safe horny, you know. So
No,
that's what it is
no,
now.
V. That is Viconia de Vir from Baldur's Gate 1.
Oh my god. Okay. I didn't
Uh-huh.
play 1. I started with 2. Yeah, I
Yeah.
started with 2. So.
Yeah, no, she was hideous in that.
She got a facelift. Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's like a lot of people liked her personality because the art style definitely isn't there, but her personality was so fucking great that a lot of people liked it, so they changed her picture in the second game.
They gave her a slight facelift, yes, because it quickly became apparent that oh wait, attractive characters sell better? Huh, weird.
Well, it was also like, so it's not just the fact that women are ugly. Like if you play Baldur's Gate, man, like I feel sexually harassed by my companions, unironically. Like so like there's this Githyanki chica, right? And I'm at the campfire enjoying myself, and then she comes up to me. I want to taste your flesh, and I'm like, what the fuck, woman? Get the fuck away from me! I'm calling the cops.
Well, it's
And by the way, like there's people that justify it, and there's people like, well, you don't understand. You know, she's from a militaristic race where there's a lich queen that like she doesn't know what love is. Like, shut the fuck up. You know, Viconia de Vir is like that, and they actually made a compelling, romantic character. You have Morrigan from Dragon Age. She's raised in the fucking woods. Transforms in a spider that crawls up your ass. And she's actually a romantic character. You got Tali Zoravas Normandy. She can't take that shit off. You know, like she has to wear the mechanical burqa on her 24/7. And she's a romantic character. Don't give me the shit. It's like, oh wait, you know, like this is her lore. No, the lore is whatever the devs write it to be. Okay? And if the devs write shit lore, you don't need to put up with it.
now on this
I'm
point,
sorry.
I have to disagree with V because he's getting it completely wrong here.
Go on.
The characters that come from specific groups should act as if they come from those groups. Otherwise, you have no canon. If you have no canon, you have no setting.
Yeah. No, but Arch, you can make it act as if she comes from that group while also being romantic, while also being interesting. Like, for example, Viconia de Vir, right? She comes from theocratic society where men are disconsidered and treated like scum. But the developers create the perfect story, and it makes her into a wholesome and likable character.
Yes. Now, it can be done better, I do agree, because the Dark Elf romance in Baldur's Gate 3 is also garbage in that she's just like, hello, you have a penis, and you're clearly the main character. I can see the camera behind you. Sex now. But it's also because Baldur's Gate is a very horny video game. It just straight up is.
Well, my point is that Baldur's Gate, and it's not just Baldur's Gate, all Western entertainment doesn't do romance anymore. Baldur's Gate does hookups. But they do not have the concept of romance at all.
Well, it's been very long since there actually has been any decent romances. Like, you'd have to go... Like, Dragon's Age. Dragon Age Origins is probably the last one that did it okay. And even then, I'd probably argue that Morrigan was the only good one. What was the name of the other?
Liliana was...
Liliana, I will sing you the song of my fucking people, Liliana.
But also Dragon Age 2, you had like that sailor lady with big tits. And it's nice because if you romance her, she actually comes back and does the right thing. So I kind of like that. Oh, Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, motherfucking Aruya Shal.
That one's not bad either, yeah, but it barely counts as a 2D game. It's a low-effort video game. Yes, reject.
I suppose I suppose that even the chick that stabs people to death, the shaman, like even that has like a better romance arc than any of the characters in Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, because Arch, there's a bunch of indie games out where you can romance characters, but they're mostly 2D games, so it's like, well, you don't got to animate a crazy sex scene or anything like that. It's just pixels.
If I want to play a visual novel, I'll play a visual novel. They're probably better.
Yeah, but I want to remind people that Baldur's Gate, right, was like pretty much text, and it had some really good romance. Like I genuinely liked Viconia de Vir. Like her entire story arc was just beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And now,
they kill her off. They kill her off.
We have Saints Row.
It's not even like an RPG, so I'll give them that.
It did have like romance scenes though. It had like a bunch of. Yeah.
Did it?
I mean, it started off as like just a Grand Theft Auto clone with Saints Row 1, and then by Saints Row 2 they kind of found their footing as being the more ridiculous Grand Theft Auto. The reason that Grand Theft Auto 5 went so like off the wall crazy is because of the success of Saints Row. They realized, oh, just being a gangster, you know, driving around a city shooting it up, that was fun in like 2001, but now you need something more, right? So they kind of they ramped it up to 11. They made it really crazy and really wacky and really out there, and then GTA followed suit.
Man, I love what Arch just posted, right? Like Saints Row was always woke. Like there's so many
This
things
is
to
the
unpack
the
here. Like,
famous article of it, and I also
Yep.
say to add to that as well, a lot of the reasons why they want more crazy is because of Grand Theft
I
Auto
have lost-
4
Shit.
as much as Saints Row, because 4 was fucking boring.
Yeah.
well, the thing
Yeah,
is,
so-
when they say woke, they mean it in the most broad sense of the word, in order to implement the game in the most narrow sense of the woke word.
Sort
And
of-
then
they
these
don't,
are
they
the
don't
same
even mean
people
it as
that-
woke. That's the thing. They mean
yeah,
good
they
thing.
don't even know. Yeah, like they don't even know how to define woke. Like they're the ones that ask you, like, what do you mean by woke? Like, what is woke? What you? Right. But by the way, I had a person which said something very interesting. You know, when the left boycotts something for being problematic, it can be literally anything. A quote from one of the developers that was found from 11 years ago, a character that is being offensive, a representation that they don't like. Right? They will make human chains in front of Chick-fil-A. They will harass VTubers for playing the Wizard game. Like, this is how the left behaves when they don't like something. Meanwhile, when the right wing does something that they don't want to buy a game, it's like, oh, it's review bombing. It's review bombing. Or, oh, you're such a crybaby. You don't want to play Saints Row because it's woke. Oh, is this a reason not to buy a game because you don't like a character? Oh, you just want sexy women. Go watch porn. Blah blah.
Okay, here.
Seriously, like this is what they say. It's fucking annoying.
I've played a bunch of the Saints Row, so just to get everyone caught up to
Heresy's
speed,
the
Arch, I'll
question.
provide you with a few
Fire
obvious
is the
instances.
answer.
So this image here, this was from the original series, the original 4 games, and it's the burger shop you can go to. It's called Freckle Bitches, right? And it has a redheaded girl holding a hamburger, and she's
That's
laying
cool.
around. Yeah, she's laying around with her with the swimsuit on. Well, they covered her up, of course they did in the remake, and they just changed the name of the place to FB's, and they don't ever tell you what FB means. So it looks like it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing. Uses the
They
same
always
font
do.
and the same pose, but they just covered her up.
You know what's woke? It's when the characters go around and they're like, fuck, fuckity, fuck, 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 fuck. And then
Yeah.
they don't just say
Millennial
a
writing,
gamer
yeah.
word. They never say a gamer word, ever, right? So it's like, how can you be edgy? Because like a person that curses all the time, like you're trying to show me that they're edgy, they're a rebel. But if you're not going to use gamer words, like you don't do the South Park approach then.
The second big thing that they changed that everyone noticed right away was rim jobs. So rim jobs is where you go to upgrade your vehicles, and they changed it to gym robs because what they did was they rather than so the pun before was a sexual pun, obviously.
Yeah.
But the pun in the new version is that there's a guy named Jim who owns the franchise, and he robs you because he's a filthy capitalist entrepreneur.
Of course.
So they changed rim jobs to gym robs. Yeah, Tidge in the chat says it's safe edgy. Yeah, because I mean, I did the video on safe edgy and safe horny. It's the same kind of thing where there is an acceptable amount of edgy that you can be, right?
Oh, there's more. There's an acceptable amount of edgy you can be politically. There was even there was an article where they quoted the creator. Volition confirms Saints Row reboot will ditch series' wacky and risque identity in favor of doing something contemporary.
As in
Exactly.
nothing, bland. You know, this is also something that I don't get. Imagine a game would do Rafflecopter because it was temporary. How would that age? Or you're like,
Rafflecopter?
okay, yeah.
I have lost.
Or like, oh, we're making Warcraft 3. Let's add the dubstep music in it because this is contemporary and it's what all kids like, you know, dubstep. Like, how would
dated
these
jokes,
things
yeah.
age?
So here's the thing. I'm currently I never saw the TV show House, right? It was like a big hit in the 2000s and early 2010s. So I'm going back to watch it with my girlfriend who's seen it 3 or 4 times now, and we're watching through it. And I'm picking up on these dated old jokes and memes from 2007, 2009, you know, old jokes, Obama era jokes, right? And you know what? The writing on that show is very good. So the joke still holds up. Like, it's obviously an old joke, but it holds up. It's like, oh, I remember that, and it's still funny, you know? But just I don't think that they had in terms of Saints Row, they had the ability to actually make an old joke work, because if you're just referencing something then 10 years later it'll just be cringy. You'll just be like, oh, I remember that. Oh, like, wow, that didn't age very well. But if you actually know how to write, you can make an old joke seem like it's a product of its time, and it brings you back to that to that headspace you were in 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever it is. So it depends. It all boils down to if you have a good writer or not.
It is also the difference between referencing and making actually a joke out of it. Because that's one of the big issues with Saints Row. In that they don't understand what they're doing. I remember this one here, which was the splash screen for the game, right? And you've got the big, cinema poster to the left there, which simply says, Shotgun Chimp 2 coming soon. And to me, these are just random words. Like, okay, like, what are the kids things are funny? What's wacky and strange? Well, like, what if we put a monkey with a shotgun? Okay. And even the characters, the same thing. The stereotypes of it. You've got the strong female character sitting on top of the weird cowboy thing. It's rustic cowboy thing, because, you know, old school, outdated nonsense. Has a sniper rifle, etc. The wisecracking black guy character who's, like, looks like he's joining the Nation of Islam, a reference about 40, 50 years old, etc.
Malcolm X, yeah.
Yep. They don't understand what they were making. Like, they had no clue, which is why they were trying to make it contemporary. Bearing in mind that Saints Row was, in a way, contemporary, in that it was, in many ways, a bit of a commentary on Grand Theft Auto, but most of its humor also wasn't actually very contemporary. It was, if anything, rather immortal. Like, crude, lewd jokes hardly go out of date.
The thing is, like, you wouldn't be able to make a proper Saints Row today. Like, there is no way you can be... See, like, before you could make fun of religion to some extent. You could make fun of political correctness that existed back then.
You could make fun of one religion.
Yeah, you could make fun of soccer moms and stuff. But now you can't do any of that. Like, there's nothing politically incorrect that you can include in a video game now.
No. It would all have to be codified, and it would all have to be government-approved establishment, haha.
So, just out of curiosity, did you guys play through it?
God,
no, and I lost respect for you because you did.
Yes, I did. I did
with
play.
You?
I
Yeah,
did play through it.
Unironically, like you know, like when you play a game and like you lose reputation points. Like when I heard that you played that, you lost reputation points with me. I
played through the whole game on stream because it was a fucking hilarious train wreck. It was really funny.
How many super chats did you get?
Quite a few, to be honest.
All right, well,
quite
at least
quite a few.
But
and also,
it's kind of like shoveling shit, isn't it? It's like you're telling me you went down into the sewer and you were shoveling shit, and you know you get money for that, but at the end of the day, you still shoveled shit.
Also, one of the developers ended up contacting me. He worked on the dev team, and then he bailed out like shortly after the game launched.
So what happened? What did he say?
What did he say? He said that a lot of it, there was a group of people on the writing staff who were very woke. And then the programmers just kind of did what they were told. He was a programmer. You make the game that you're told to make, right? And the same with the art people. They do what they're told. But the writers are kind of like they're not in control, but they definitely like direct the story.
Yeah, and they have an HR lady that looms over them. Yeah.
However, the actual corporate part of the business, they're not woke at all. Like, they don't give a shit. They're just there because they want to make money. And so the writers tell them, hey, listen, you know what'll actually be real good in this scene? A joke about student debt. Because kids love student debt. And then the corpos go, how do you do, fellow kids? We see money signs. So it really was like a situation where there was no ideological commitment to any sort of wokeness here. The people in charge were told by the younger generation coming up that they should make a game like this to make money.
That is true.
I don't believe there's no ideology looking at how many woke tropes per second I can see. Like any picture that I look, I can see like 4 or 5 woke tropes. Like as we talked with Arch,
and that was the writing staff. I am almost sure because Embracer Group was the one who shuttered them. Embracer Group were the ones who cut their cost and numbers immediately after launch. Like, Embracer seems to me like just a pure capitalist blood-sucking vampire, which is what I want.
Mm-hmm. Here, let me pull this up real quick. I don't know if you want to talk about this part of the story, Arch, but here's a collection of tweets from the official Saints Row Twitter account making fun of people who don't like the look of the new game back when it was first announced.
Service guarantee
I remember
Complaining about
that.
the direction. Yeah. And then of course they are now shut down. And in fact, you even see shit like this. You see people who are like, Volition's gonna go gangbusters. This is gonna be awesome. And like those are tweets from last year, right?
Oh
And now
yeah, we've already seen that one.
And yeah, now they have shit like, oh, here's a community notes. What does it say? Oh, they shut down. Like it's funny how the chickens have come home to roost on this one, you know?
It is.
Yeah,
Did
like
you,
the
did
whole
you see my
smugness-
response to it, Dev?
I haven't yet. No, let me go see.
Like, imagine saying that the tourists are the real fans.
I like that tourist has become a meme. Like everyone, you just instantly you instantly know what is meant when you say tourist in this context. You know, like it's so intuitive. It's a good word.
Send it, you, Dev.
Yeah, it's a lot better than fake geek girl.
Yeah.
Well, it's because tourist is more of a nuanced word as well, frankly. And this is a brilliant excuse to put on Archlander a little bit in the
Yeah,
background
it's
again.
kind of it works because it's not. It's also they can't use like TOS against you or like be upset that you're insulting them or anything. But like it's an insult still. Like the word isn't offensive, but when you use it, you know exactly what you mean by it.
Well, I've already seen some attempts to kind of take the effect out of it by obfuscation, which is the usual tactics. Like, well, tourist? What do you mean tourist? Like I've been in this
Well,
country for years.
if you're
etc.
dumb, no, like
And
I will
it's-
say, if you're dumb enough not to get it, then think
Well,
about
it's,
it. Like,
it's of course they get it. It's a tactic.
no, I
Yeah,
know, but like
it's
when
tactic.
someone pulls that tactic, what you do is like you seem like a smart fellow. I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Well,
Like
because-
literally, just the
because
snark,
it's
just like
not
that.
about them. It's never about them. Like they're there to go like, oh, this is a stupid word, and then you have to go like, okay, yeah, but this is what it means. Because it is literally it is the contest for the normie that is going on here. It's what's always been going on here.
Yeah, I mean the thing that they wanna do, which is more effective, is to call you a tourist. You know, like Arch Warhammer is the real tourist, and it doesn't work. You know, because it looks like really bad when they do it.
Yeah,
because they
yeah.
don't understand the word.
Well, again, that doesn't matter because they will just use the word and then say it means something else. Like that's the thing. That's why you have to like be like, no, tourist means somebody who wants to change it for their own agenda. Because if you want to change it, you're not there to stay. You are just passing through, by definition.
Yeah. Oh, also, there you go. My face is now in there, Arch. Thank you. I saw the same thing once Prague began being used. Like I started using that word back in 2018. I'm not sure if I caused it to be used as much as it is now. I might have, but I've seen it in the past year be used everywhere as like just an epithet for progressive because it sounds kind of harsh, like Prague. You know, the G sounds like it sound really harsh and really insulting. But like 2 or 3 years ago, there was some bread tuber I was debating with on Twitter, and I said Prague. And they did that thing. It's like, what does Prague mean? Do you think you're starting something here? And I'm just like, listen, because you reacted that way, I know it's getting to you.
Mhm.
And it's kind of the same thing with tourist, you know?
Yes. Yes, because they're reacting like tourist, because they know it's bad.
They know it's bad, and they know that it's catchy enough to like catch on, and people will to become like part of the zeitgeist. People will know what's going on when you say it.
Do you know what I noticed? It's like when the left comes up with an insult, it's like Chad, oh you're a Chad bud, Chad, or dude bro. The right
Yes,
doesn't
the
copy
question.
it, but when
Fire
the
is
right
the
comes up
answer.
with an insult like soy boy, the left copies it.
Yes, but it's because it's a coping mechanism. They see a thing that's popular, and because most of them are massive fucking brainlets and have no understanding of their own ideology, they think this references the opposition. Like, that is unironically it. Like, every time I've seen the female Space Marines thing pop up, for example, they go like, bro, we just want, like, female Space Marines. They'll look exactly like the other ones. Okay, you're lying. Simple as. Because even if you get that, you'll push further. And that's what we've seen every time. And that's what they do
It's
every
not
time.
only that. Like I'm willing to bet the female Space Marines won't even be hot or interesting. It will just be like men that have tits.
Well, that's the problem. That's how they moderate the demand, essentially. Because they first it's like female Space Marines, and they should be obviously female. And then that doesn't pass. And then they move it back a little bit, and they keep doing it until they hope they can hit a point where it'll be accepted. Because they know this isn't about the thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't capitulate on the thing immediately. It's about the influence of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
No,
it's
you're right.
also that whenever the left, hold on, whenever a good chunk of, let's say, the lower IQ left critiques things, what they do is they simply describe the thing, and that's it. And they expect that will be taken as the critique. So a good example is was it Far Cry 4 or 5 that had like the libertarian "Keep Your Rifle by Your Side" song?
The
That
Far Cry 5.
Yeah, 5. So libertarians love that song. It's a song that is meant to critique their way of life, but now they play it constantly, and they're like, "This is a great song." Now, I mean, it helps that it's actually a really good song, independent of the content of the lyrics. But they thought that it would be something that, let's say, progressives could listen to and laugh at because its content is so ridiculous. But it didn't actually critique libertarianism. It simply described libertarianism. And they think that describing their opponent ideologies is the same thing as critiquing them because
Yeah,
they're
and
just
not to
so
mention,
obviously bad. But they're not obviously bad, actually.
yeah, the song itself is like keep your rifle by your side. They're bring tanks, and they'll have weapons and they'll have tanks because they got money in your banks. But when the sinner find us, we will fight. Right? Like basically, it's hold your ground. This is our land. Right? Like
Yeah.
no interpretation of human history can you view that as being bad. It's like you got a bunch of people that like you got a bunch of people that want to be left alone.
But now
Like
compare it to like the Oliver Anthony song, right? Where he actually did critique things in that song. He actually did say, here is something, and rather than just describing it, he described why that thing is bad. Which is why I think the left had such a hard time grappling with that, because a lot of their cultural critique is just literally the thing is bad because no reason other than them describing what the thing's tenets are. There's no actual analysis there, if that makes any sense.
Well, it's because it is the established order. The established order does not need to explain itself. This is also why games like Saints Row inherently failed. Because the entire point of Saints Row was to be anti-establishment. Literally, from its very beginning, its revolt against Grand Theft Auto, which was heading more and more towards a gritty, realistic direction, etc. It was anti-power structure. It took the piss out of everyone. Like, there were evil capitalists in that, and they were retarded communists in that. But the moment you take that and turn it into literally the public has approved this joke, make it now haha, everyone rejects it. Because it is self-evidently not the thing it once was. It is like turning Star Trek into Star Wars. Like, it's very obvious when you do it.
So there is one defense I can offer up in terms of the new Saints Row, okay? There is a communist gang in it, and you do actually go to war with them and you destroy them, and they are presented to be retards. Like they don't present the communists in the game to be good at all. So it's not like they're actually pushing a message with this. It's just that the intro is so poorly written, talking about like the whole student loan thing and all the millennial writing, and then the gameplay itself is just so god awful.
Jesus fucking Christ, Dev! Like if in an entire bag you have red balls and there's like one white ball, your conclusion is like, well, it's not like they were trying to put red balls in the bag. Like, well, no, they weren't.
I know. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
It's not even that. Like it's pushing a message, but it's pushing its variant of the message. This is the same thing when you're discussing with a bread tube and go a communist, and he goes like, actually, a narco-capitalist environmentalist or something.
Yeah, it's a different flavor of what they're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like one type of leftist versus another type of leftist, because the extremes always infight like that.
Yes. And this is poison to companies, and it is unavoidable. So the Get Woke, Go Broke thing, for example, right? Is it an ironclad truism? No. Nothing ever is. Except maybe things go up, things go down.
Like even Cornering says, because I think like he's the one that popularized it. That he will say like, yeah, like there are companies that like eventually, you throw a lot of darts and then one may hit the mark even if you're blindfolded. So there are like woke games that manage to make money, but like overwhelmingly, and it doesn't mean like they go broke. It means that they could have been more profitable had they weren't woke.
Mm-hmm.
It is also the fact of the long game of things. Volition took 30 years from its beginning to its death, and for a good 10 of those, Volition was doing nothing.
Yep. It kind of just, after Saints Row 4, it kind of fell off the map. And what game? That game was what, 2013, 2012?
2013, yes. So basically, for 10 years, they did nothing. And Saints Row 4 was not popular because it didn't understand what it was doing either, really. It took everything a little bit too far, and everything became, well, not even a joke. Saints Row 4 wasn't very funny or even very edgy. It was just like, oh, you have superpowers now. Oh, cool. That invalidates 98% of the video game.
So, yeah, Saints Row 4 used the exact same map as Saints Row 3, but they added a meta story of... that you're actually on a spaceship jacking into the Matrix. So it was like, rather than being a parody of Grand Theft Auto, it was half a parody of Mass Effect and half a parody of the Matrix. And that joke got old pretty quick.
Yes. I remember when I was playing it, I was constantly thinking to myself, okay, when do I get out of this? Because I'm getting sick of the filter put over everything.
And you never get out of this, dude.
You never get out of it, no.
Nope.
And you had the dubstep gun, I remember.
Yep, Saints Row 4 was not a good thing. But like even the companies, the big ones today, for example, like Marvel, one of the big heads of woke entertainment, are suffering. It was recently announced now as well. I'll put that in the link channel. Ironheart, Black Iron Man, delayed. Daredevil, delayed. Wonder Man, delayed. Basically, their entire slate of entertainment has either been pushed back or cancelled. Even the X-Men show, which everyone is actually kind of excited for because it's X-Men 97, so hopefully it's a bit of a return to the old school stuff. That too is delayed.
Isn't the writer's strike?
Yeah. There's multiple things happening here. It's not just get woke, go broke. There's the writer's strike, and then there's the hits they've already taken from COVID, like the COVID lockdowns and stuff. So I think there's many things converging on them right now that's making, like, for big companies like Marvel, Disney, same thing. A lot of these, Paramount, they're all taking hits because just a whole convergence of factors right now.
Well, that's the thing, though. The writer's strike, too, is as a result of this. Nothing happens in a vacuum. The reason why the writers can't get anywhere and the studios are allowed to cockblock them like they can is because we've watched what they've been writing for the last decade, and there is no sympathy for them.
Yep. Nobody cares anymore.
Like, the studios get to do whatever they want to them because nobody's going to help them.
Has this strike gone on farther, like longer than the 80s strike or the 2008 strike, the writer's strike?
I think it's 130 days now or something.
Damn. Yeah, nobody gives a shit about the writers because they do such poor fucking work now. Yeah. I recall people in 2008 like actually wanting the strike to end because there were shows on that people actually
because they wanted to have stuff again.
Yeah, no one's coming to their defense this time.
Yeah.
Nobody.
And it's more interesting that the comedians had to pause their shows because they don't have writers. And I'm thinking like, oh, so like these guys, like the America's most famous comedians, like Colbert, that goes around the world, they're not writing their own jokes.
It actually today marks the 4-month point for the writers' strike.
Here, let me give you this, Arch, because.
Yep, that will be our third topic for today, Dev.
Is it today already? Dev. Sorry. Oh,
Brad Dev.
Well, we want to just transition to the third topic right now and just shuffle the order around?
No.
It's a good segue.
No, okay, now we're going to go through some super chats first because people have been yelling Dev is wrong, probably.
Are we done with Saints Row? Is that it?
I think so. Like,
yeah.
It's a woke video game that killed its studio. Nice and simple.
Yep. When I talked to the guy who had made it, basically, 3 to 6 months after launch, he had moved on. A lot of people had moved on. A lot of the gaming industry works such that like you don't really have steady employment. You get laid off, right? You get laid off after the project's over, and then maybe if you did a good job, you get rehired for the next game, right? And usually the rehiring is like after a month or two. But pretty much everyone was like, "Yeah, we're getting laid off and we're going somewhere else because there's no fucking hope at Volition." And so he pieced out like 6 months ago, right? And he's like, "Well, I now have a game under my belt on my resume, and that does mean something. Even if it's like a shit game, you can say, hey, listen, yeah, the game sucked, no one liked it, but you know what? I made these art assets, or I did this coding. Here's an example of my work. You can use that to get ahead in your career." But yeah, everyone jumped ship behind the scenes. Everyone's like, "We're out of Volition. This is a sinking ship."
Be right back.
And it was. It was. Kernan becomes a member, thank you very much, sir, and says tack for all den underholdningen du har gitt meg over årene og i mange år fremover. Rax Armageddon, Bedab Assassinorium med flere. Fortsatt med det gode arbeidet. That's Norwegian, in case you're confused there.
Sounds like it.
Thank you very much, sir. And he also gets 5 memberships. Thank you again. Very generous. And I will continue with the good work, I hope at least. I shall attempt. Dracus Luthor says the castrated black male trope is probably because they hate the porn trope of Tyrone the buff black bull, which they think is racist. I think so probably too. It's the whole like, oh, the black guy can't be the big buff guy because that's racist, so we gotta make him the smart guy. And the worst part is, you can make an effective stereotype out of that. That's actually pretty cool. Like the super respectable, straight-laced, like Nation of Brotherhood of Islam guy, That's not a bad character. But in a current year video game, it comes across as very, 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 very stupid. Some rando says, Arch V, are you Morrowind fans? There's a mod that will add AI-generated voices to all dialogue within the game. It was started this year, but it's already 42% done. It's called Voices of Vardenfell. I am intending to check out the Skyrim equivalent of that, because that one's pretty much already done, that integrates ChatGPT into the game. Because that's a very intriguing idea that, I don't know. Like, I can see the promise in it, but I can also see the inevitable pitfalls in it. Sajad says, Baxter Stockman from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was originally black. Was he? Baxter Stockman, who's that?
He is the scientist who turned himself into the Flyman or whatever.
The Flyman.
Yeah.
Oh god, it's been a while since I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, he accidentally like poured some goop on himself, and like he grows into like, a big fly.
Huh. A big fly. All right, there was a villain like that.
Yeah, big mosquito. Yeah. No, he was black though. He was a black scientist.
Well, that's the thing. Like when they say Saints Row was always woke, and they go like, well, it had a diverse set of characters, and it had like dildos and was sex positive. Yeah, this was the entire world until you fuckers came along. Literally. Nobody thought about this shit. This was not a topic. We all had organically diverse character sets. Like, the dick jokes wasn't viewed as sex positive. It was simply a dick joke. Unironically, we had the progressive utopia until the progressives showed up and started bitching at it. Andrew Schmidt says, V, you get a break today. Dev, what does a Chicago piano use to hold ammo?
Isn't it a drum?
Good, Dev.
Oh.
Yes, he's meaning the Thompson gun, I'm presuming, and that indeed had a drum magazine. Or, well, it could have. It could also have a box. Gabriel Nartia says, Panam from Cyberpunk is a good romance. Well, she's a serviceable romance. Dev, did you play Cyberpunk?
Not all the way through. I gotta get back to it now that they fixed it.
Neither have I.
I more or less have. I'm waiting for the expansion, which will come out this month, and I'm hoping it'll like add the last few touches to make the game good, because there are elements of a good game in Cyberpunk. It's just you gotta dig for them a little bit. And the romance options weren't bad, like the Panam and Judy Alvarez. The only issue I have with them is they too are romances centered entirely around fucking. That's it. So it's all a quest to fuck the character, and once you fuck the character, the romance is over, which isn't really a romance quest line, in my opinion. That's more like a 13-year-old's understanding of it.
There's no Morrigan, there's no Talizora, there's no...
Yes, there's no relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Judy Alvarez questline in particular was very disappointing, because you had a great underwater date to her old hometown, which was flooded by the evil corporations, and it's really atmospheric. It's like, wow, this is cool. This is a look into her background, right? Then you fuck, and then it's over. Like you never speak to her again, basically.
Yeah, here, chat. That feel when you complete the romance storyline of a video game and your girlfriend just repeats the same lines.
Yes.
Feels bad, man.
It's like, because that shouldn't be the end of the romance. It should be the beginning of it, goddammit. Like, now you should, and this is one praise I will give Starfield, which we'll have a big discussion on Starfield, actually, because that's an interesting one. The companion characters in Starfield are very good, vocally speaking, because they have a lot of dialogue, which is very nice.
Meh.
Well, I do know that in Mass Effect and also in Fallout 4, after the sex scene, there's usually still more story stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it basically they structure it such that the character doesn't just fade away after you fuck them. There's actually something going on there. I can appreciate that.
It is. Scarf the Strange says you'd have to play a European game to find hot women in Western games. To an extent, and indie titles, more correctly, can actually have attractive characters in them still. Though even then, it's rare, isn't it? Luna Legion says, hello from Little Norway, occasionally known as England. We need Johnny Gat to canonize the modern saints.
Is that what it's called?
Little England? Yes.
Mm-hmm. No, Little Norway.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Mm.
It is our property, after all.
Elon Musk blames elite LA school for brainwashing communist trans daughter into hating him for being rich.
Yeah. That's yeah. That sounds like a likely story, honestly.
I have lost shit.
Noct Angela says social justice short bus tour line. Will it have a helicopter ride at the end? I hope so.
I have lost shit.
Lucian says Dev has become a focal point of corruption. Quickly, shove him out the airlock. Dev has become a focal point of many things. Okay. Capitalism and communism both. It is quite the achievement, actually, when you think about it. Mark99 says, Man, Saints Row, how the mighty have fallen. It's sad how Saints Row 2 had the balls to let players be a fucking monster in the story, but now they want us to always be the good guy. Well, that was one of the problems, too, from what I saw, of you playing it, for example, there.
Fire is the
Saints
answer.
Row, the reboot, had the problem of not wanting to be bad, so they had to find some way to moralize their actions, and also just turn them into less serious things, shall we say. Whereas in previous Saints Row, oh no, you did some horrible goddamn shit because the Saints are not good people.
You know, I will say that I kind of liked the character design of the three mains, at least two of the three mains in Saints Row, the remake. They could have done something there. They had the the guy who was really into the trance ecstasy scene. They had the nerdy black guy who was wearing his bow tie, and he was like an anarcho-capitalist. You know, you could do something with those characters. It wasn't all bad. It was just mostly bad.
You could do something with those characters.
The question. Fire is the answer.
Could, being the operative word.
Yep, and they didn't. I don't think any of that planned DLC came out. It's all just done.
Forspoken DLC actually is going to come out, isn't it?
It is, yes. That's also probably going to be a trash fire.
What if like the DLC is actually like genuinely unironically good?
Oh God, that
What
would.
if
Can you
pigs
imagine?
can indeed fly?
Can you imagine? It's like the studio is bankrupt, and then they make the DLC, and it's like one of the best games you've ever played.
Fuck.
Flexing Potato says, "Hey Dev, have you ever considered doing a video on the left and evolution?
Heresy's
I've
the
noticed the left
question.
likes to use
Fire
it to
is the
flex on
answer."
young Earth creationists, but are uncomfortable when applying it to humans." Well, that's one of those interesting little things, isn't it? Where you, how do I put it? How do I put this in a YouTube acceptable way?
Tell me,
I'll
and, like
just
write
say
it
it,
write it
Arch.
down, and I'll translate.
You know
How
the,
do
the
we
meme with the skulls, for example, like black skull, white skull, etc. The thing is,
Oh.
we actually know there are differences between the skulls, and this is one of those things you can't say. Whilst at the same time, it has been scientifically proven, and they get very mad whenever it happens. Like,
No, I think no. Here's the thing, right? You can say there are differences because forensics actually use this science. Like if you find a
yeah, no,
a
but
dead
they get
body,
angry
there's
at
someone-
that. Like, there was
No, let
literally
me-
a medical scanning robot that could identify race, and that became a whole thing.
All right, but I can assume responsibility for what I'm saying, right? It's upsetting when you point out that like different skulls are correlating to intelligence and IQ. Like that is upsetting. But to simply point out that you can tell a person's race by a skull, it's the forensics people do it. It's not
Heresy's
100%
the
accurate,
question.
obviously.
Fire is
But like
the
if they find
answer.
a skeleton in someone's backyard and it's been there for like 40 years, they can tell the gender, the sex of the skeleton. They can tell the age, when it died, and they can also pretty much accurately tell
I
the
have
ethnicity
lost.
of it.
They can, but they won't. That's the interesting thing. So the article I'm referring to came from like the MIT, so it's fairly respected, right? Artificial intelligence predicts patients' race from their medical images. Study shows AI can find self-reported race from medical images that contain no indications of race detectable by human experts. This is bullshit, by the way, and the article even goes on to explain this, because no, we can actually rather easily figure out a person's race from their remains. It's actually not all that difficult. This is one of those like, oh, we couldn't build the pyramids today. No, of course we can. It's a pile of fucking rocks. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is
Are
one
there
of those
people that
things where
say-
everyone knows this is possible. There are entire fields of science making this clear it's possible, but because of unfortunate connotations, you can't say it.
Yeah.
And that's the same with the evolution, because they can go like, okay, evolution is obviously, what are you, science denier? And then you point them towards Africa.
So yeah, so what's happening here is that people on let's say the far left,
Service
they
guarantee
hate the
citizenship.
idea of essentialism, right? And they tend to use biological essentialism in the context of trans stuff, but it applies to any sort of biology. And
Heresy's the
basically, if
question.
you make
Fire
the
is
statement
the
that you
answer.
can tell something about somebody based on their nature, then you're being an essentialist, and that's bigoted. Also, not only is it bigoted, it's fascist, which is kind of how you go down the weird
I have
rabbit hole that they
lost.
have set up.
Shit.
But it's also obviously true, right? Like we clearly do have a nature. There's clearly a biological origin for not all of what we are, but a lot of what we are.
Well, see,
You know,
the beauty of it is because we do have Africa, we have the cradle of humanity. We can look at the situation and the circumstances that created humanity, and then we can look at us snow monkeys up here in the north and go like, well, they can drink milk. What happens if you give a glass of milk to your average African? Bad stuff. Simultaneously, what happens if you put a Norwegian in the middle of the desert? Bad shit. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Well,
right?
there's like certain medical records, like for example, when it comes to blood pressure, I think like African Americans, and this is what we were taught at med school. So if you have a problem, like take it with the Romanian educational system. But basically, we were taught that African Americans like have higher blood pressure, which means that if someone comes up to you and they have higher blood pressure, you don't treat it because it's normal for them. Like you need to know these things, and then like certain predispositions to cancers and so on and so forth.
It's a
But
Gasol
what you
anime,
said,
yeah.
what you said, Dev, it's like if you're an essentialist, you're a fascist. It's kind of hilarious because fascists actually didn't believe in race. Like Benito Mussolini says that race is a delusion.
Yeah,
And
it was Hitler who brought
yeah,
the race stuff in. Yeah, it
right.
was different. But no,
It,
there's
fascism
so
doesn't have the time for the delirium of race.
if you look back at like the arguments for gay marriage in the 2000s, right? Those were essentialist arguments. They were saying, well, gay people are born this way, and we shouldn't simply oppress them because of a circumstance of their birth. It's just random genetics, so we should let them marry. And that kind of underpinned the moral impetus for gay marriage.
I have lost.
And now you have a lot of left-leaning people come out, 15 years later. Not all of them, but a lot of them are coming out 15 years later saying stuff like, well, we just said that to get the homophobes on board. We actually don't believe that at all. We actually think that everything, in fact, is socially constructed, and there is no essential biology of anything. And it's like, well, hold on. You can believe that, but that also means that the people who want to do conversion therapy are correct when they say they can change your sexuality, which is fucking stupid. But like they basically they take up the far right conversion therapy position, but they just go, well, we should use that to make more gay people.
Well,
That's where their logic leads them.
the entirety of leftist dogma boils down to good when I do it.
It's not just good when I do it. It's also that anything can be, with enough information, enough knowledge, enough power, you can basically craft anything to be like anything. As long as you just have, like, if there's some reason that your attempts to create a new type of person or a new type of society didn't work, it's not because it's impossible. It's because you just lack the knowledge and the power and the tools to do it. That's what's at the core of like the leftist what's the phrase? The leftist like psychological makeup, basically.
CTC 1392 says, greetings lads, for the use of tourists. The tourists also trying to use it on Sargon and Heels's babyface, saying they're not true Warhammer 40k fans. Yeah, it's because they recognize an effective attack upon them. It's like, oh wow, that hurts. Let me try using it back. Not understanding the... Because this is the thing too. This is the reason why the Barbie movie was a huge success, in my opinion, was because the creators' understanding of their own ideology was so unfathomably poor that they ended up making the opposition's point for them. And that is the majority of normies today. Normies who call themselves leftists have no actual concept of the ideology they're arguing for. They have simply been told that this is good. And so they're like, but good though. You're the tourist. Good. They're not intelligent. Like, they're actual NPCs. This is why the NPC meme hurts them so much, because deep down they probably recognize it's true.
You know that it used to be called Marionette Man before the NPC thing?
No, I didn't know
NPC
that.
is way more fetching though.
Yeah, well, marionette means that someone is pulling the strings, right?
Yeah, but NPC, I like
Like,
NPC
you're-
better because it means that you're
Yeah, but
just
like-
waiting for feedback.
No, I
You're
guess, but
programmed,
like back
yeah.
then they didn't have computers. So during the French Revolution, they were called marionette men. It's like people that are being controlled by others, basically. Like you're dancing to someone else's tune.
Midwit is another good term too. Like, you have enough intelligence to think you understand something, but not enough to actually do. TF Olsmark says, hej Arch, lurer på ditt synspunkt på om Transformers kan bli presentert som en romopera. Jeg mener, ja, jeg hadde en diskusjon med en kompis angående det. That's more Norwegian,
Why
in
is he
case you're
speaking
wondering.
Russian? No, it's Russian.
Yeah, no, I think Transformers could be considered a space opera in the correct setting. With like the old movie, the like 80s movie or 90s, the really old one. That's definitely a space opera. The current ones, sorta, kinda, maybe a little bit. Sujad, and then Scott says, Dev, the only people who hate communism more than a good person is a different kind of communist.
Yeah, like
probably
the most dangerous place to be for a communist is amongst other communists.
Surrounded by other communists, yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, it's the same with the extreme right wing too. Because you like on the right, for example, you'll have like one breed of racist, and they're all about, let's say, like genetics, like the JF Garrity, like heavy into biology types, right? And then you have a different breed of racist, and they're all about like the spirit of the blood and all and
Yeah,
like
like
mysticism,
what was
and
he?
those guys
Goebbels.
hate each other. You
Yeah,
know?
like Goebbels was the pope of racism, and he basically believed that
I
like
have
when he
lost.
started incorporating non-German people into the military, he said like, well, yeah, but like these people have like a little bit of German in them, and through battle, like as their comrades die, they absorb the energy from the other comrades, and they become more like German. I'm not kidding. Like you read some of this shit,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's religious and spiritual in nature, and it's like non-scientific at all, and you're like, what the fuck? Like how could people believe this nonsense?
This is also
Yeah,
just a
like
commonality of dogma. It was
yeah.
like if you read when the U.S. was giving arms to Afghanistan to fight the Soviets, there were like dozens of splinter groups of extremist Islam that all had like tiny, minute differentials of interpreting Islam or how strict they were in observing it, etc. And Osama bin Laden's group, incidentally, was one of the less radical ones.
Well, I mean, we saw ISIS, so I mean, the thing with Osama is the scale and the magnitude of the damage. But like with ISIS, the brutality was obviously like not as impactful, but um, how should I say, like it was constant and frequent.
For some reason, that conversation pissed the chat off. I don't even know why this time, but all right.
About what?
I think they're mad that I pointed out that there's like extreme racists who do this too.
Any extreme tends to degenerate into quibbling over minutia.
Yeah, it's just how it is.
Danny D says, I must say, it's fascinating watching people with no imagination and a disconnect from reality try to be anti-establishment. Well, again, like it returns to the point of the midwit, isn't it? Where you've been told this good, and you haven't had any reason to question it because it's good, right? You know, it's good. Obviously, it's good. Why would you question it? It's good, and then you have to make a joke about it. And then you're like, well, you know, this is good. You agree this is good? Yeah, I agree this is good. And then you make the point. And then it's complete nonsense, because it's self-evidently complete nonsense. But if you've never thought about it, you've never been told to think about it, you've never been instructed how to think about it, you haven't been taught the tools with which to analyze anything, well, you're going to be stuck in that, like, well, wait, hold on. But I thought, loop. Hell, I've caught myself in that loop too, where a previously held conviction of mine turns out to be wrong, and I've never thought about it. And when I do think about it, it's like, wait, that doesn't work. You know, I'm sure everyone has had that at some point.
Yeah.
That is left, just as a whole. That is the normie left. That is why we need to make so much noise as well. Like that is why we eventually are beginning to see more and more change in our favor, because we're currently the ones making the most noise against the people who are in the establishment. Because it makes people who were previously just recipients of the propaganda begin to question it. The beauty and the evil of the internet at the same time, really.
A lot of people don't question things though. Like when they realize that they're wrong, they don't, you know.
Well, of course. Like, you're not going to spend all your day questioning shit, are you? Like, especially when you've never been taught how to. Like, we don't teach actual critical thinking in school. Not the modern day bullshit. The philosophical tools with which to interrogate an idea.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
What?
we're not taught that. Most people don't fucking know how to do that. You're simply
we
given a set of data
in
points.
Romania. Like it's interesting because like at least the one that I went, I don't know if they still do it now, but yeah, it was like we actually had the exercises, like we were told something, and it was like now argue for it, and then it was like okay, now switch sides and argue against it.
Yeah, we were never taught that.
Yeah, we did that at law school as well. It was like you know, let's talk about abortions. Like which ones of you are for it, and then they were arguing, and it's like all right, well now you need to argue against it. And if anyone complained, it was like, well, okay, but like when you're going to have to defend a pedophile in court, what are you going to do? So like you're going to become a lawyer, so you need to learn how to do it properly. So just become the devil's advocate, basically. Like if you don't believe in something, you still need to find arguments for and against it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like really interesting. We did that with the death penalty as well.
As Serrano
And it's
says, it happened to blue-collar workers during the Industrial Revolution. Now it's happening to them. Piss off and find another job. No one cares. That's true.
Literally learn to code.
Yep. You're going to have to learn to code, writers. Scott the Celt says, V, aside from Craig Ferguson, none of the late-night talk show comedians write their own jokes. They're just the personality, heavy quotes. That's true. Did you guys see the thing they did? Like 5 of the late-night TV talk show people did like a hangout thing. Did anyone see that?
Nope.
No.
Yeah, they're starting a podcast, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember the name of it, but there was some sort of Strike Force 5. That's what it's called. I was just googling wildly late night TV show host thing. Let's see if I can premieres
Heresy's the
tomorrow.
question. Fire is the answer.
Let's see. Can I find this? All right, here we go. Okay, so Strike Force 5. I'll link this in the link channel. There you go. That's their Twitter account right there. So these are some relatively big names in like the late night TV host thingy-bob thing here, right? On Twitter, they've got 8,000 followers in total. Their podcast, let's see, where was it? Where is it? There we go. It has 208,000 views on Twitter. So these are the biggest name in late night television, and they're getting numbers that, well, you and I and everyone here occasionally pulls, which is a little sad.
Yeah. I guess.
I wonder if I can see the if there's any more numbers on like the Spotify page. No real numbers on the Spotify page as far as I can see. So the Twitter numbers are the best one we've got access to at the moment. And I mean, it tells you, doesn't it? Like when these people need to work off no script and they don't have an entire multi-billion-dollar network backing them up, then even 5 of them together can barely draw numbers comparable to 3 no-namers on YouTube.
It's interesting. I guess like one of the things they have to be careful is like what jokes they make so they don't get canceled. Like if the corporation just has a writer for you and you're reading the script, then you're safe, right?
Yes.
Like if you
I have lost.
deviate from that, then you're in danger. So basically, like what they want probably is safety. I don't think it's like they can't make jokes. Like almost every human being can make jokes. It's like they're afraid that their jokes may get them canceled.
Service guarantees
Well, obviously.
citizenship.
And it's also like, if they haven't actually needed to be funny spontaneously for God only knows how many years, etc., being funny is either something you have an innate talent for, or it is something you need to actively work on quite a bit to be deliberately funny, to be a comedian, you know? Like, hell, most comedians spend God only knows how many hours writing their material. Like, they have entire, like, stacks of jokes and notes and stuff that they make up. These guys have been fed their material for the last few years, and now that 5 of them come together, they can, well, barely draw an audience. And that is with the various mainstream media backing them up as well, tweeting about them, talking about them, showing them off, etc.
It's interesting they don't use ChatGPT by now.
I think that might infringe certain contracts they have, honestly. Not to mention, they would need to hire just as many people to, well, read over ChatGPT's jokes as they have now, creating them, I imagine.
Yeah, but like no one would know it's ChatGPT's joke. So
I don't know about that. I think people with autism would
Service
figure that
guarantees
one out
citizenship.
actually relatively quickly.
you can modify it a little, change the homework a little bit.
Yeah, change the homework a little bit. You know, there
It
actually
depends on the prompt.
there exists tools to scan whether or not something is like genuine homework or copied from something.
Really?
Yep. They even have like a percentage score that tells you like how likely it is to be copied or how much they copied, etc. Late night TV show hosts. It might just be over, which would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they're threatening us with a good time.
They are. They very much so are. Elsa Solana says, I was ambivalent towards Judy at best until I got to the scuba date. Then I actually got interested in her, but then the romance just stopped. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I totally see what you mean. Like, the scuba date was a good romance plot. It was actually genuinely good. I was sitting there like, wow, this is... this is romantic almost. Holy shit. Then you fuck, and then it's over. It's like, okay, well, that was a bummer. When having sex is the largest letdown, you've done something wrong.
I remember Morrigan in Dragon Age, like at one point she doesn't want to have sex with you and you get concerned.
That's true. And then she
And
wants
then
to
when
have
she
sex
fucks
with
you
you, and then
again,
you
you're
get
like,
extra concerned because,
I
like,
have
yeah, I'm
lost.
gonna use your child to become like God or something.
Mm-hmm.
Andersman says Chicago Piano is an AA gun. Oh, is it one of those like long ones, like the 2 or 3 inchers? I don't remember. I didn't know those were called Chicago Pianos. Dry Feet says, now that I think about it, even the Jack romance in Mass Effect 2 and 3, you go in thinking it's going to be some SJW thing, but the characters usually develop. Yeah,
that was actually interesting. Yeah.
It was a little bit before the time, too, when it really started taking off. Like, oh god, BioWare.
No, the
BioWare.
thing with Jack, the thing with Jack was like, she wanted to have sex with you like a lot earlier than any other character, and if you said yes, you would blow your chances with her. But if you said no and then waited, then you could actually romance her.
Mm-hmm. The only issue, like the Jack was actually a great storyline for the entirety of 2 and 3. The only issue was that she was meant to be bisexual, and she clearly looks bisexual when you just look at her, like it's obvious. But they took out the female shepherd option because of all the blowback that Mass Effect 1 got from Fox News back in the day.
Oh,
if you remember
God, that was a different fucking era, wasn't it?
that. Yeah. So it was like 2007 or something, and Fox News is broadcasting hit pieces on Mass Effect 1 saying that it has hardcore lesbian sex, which it didn't, obviously. But and you had like a young, fresh-faced Jeff Keighley in there defending on Fox News, defending Mass Effect, saying that no, it's not a porno simulator. No, it's like, but yeah.
But you know what's interesting? You know what's interesting? GTA would pay Fox News to give them bad coverage.
Oh yeah, that's actually funny.
Yeah.
Probably because
so
it would like controversy, right? Yeah, it gets you.
Yeah, I'm curious if Mass Effect did the same.
Well, the thing is,
no, it didn't.
Fox News at that point had hit the point of anything they criticized became popular simply because that was how unpopular Fox News was.
It was like CNN today.
Yes.
Yeah, but like this was during an era where the right still held a lot of cultural power in ways that they don't today, right? So
I would say it was the end of their cultural power.
It was the end of that era. Yeah, because Obama came in the next year and that kind of broke them basically for a while. But this was 2007, so like it was hot off the heels of the Dixie Chicks getting canceled when they said something bad about George Bush. So it was the same kind of thing. And basically, when Mass Effect Legendary Edition came out, they released with it a documentary of like the making of the series. And the people who made the game, they reported that the word came down from EA that they couldn't do gay or lesbian romances in the second game because of the outcry. Now they argued to keep the Liara one in because Liara it's a single sex species, and they got that. but like they had to basically they said no, they cut the Jack thing. They cut the Jack thing because they didn't want to do a lesbian romance. And then they ended up like bringing back a bunch of gay and lesbian romances in the third game because basically Fox News's clout had massively diminished by like 2012. But yeah, they were so scared in 2007 that they actually started cutting out parts of Mass Effect 2 over it. And it sucks that they didn't restore it because they had all the voice lines recorded. They already had the voice lines of Jack getting with a female shepherd recorded.
You
They just
really
didn't
want
restore
it, like okay, so you're telling me you really want to go back into Mass Effect, make a female shepherd to fuck the bald chick?
I mean, I did it with a mod, so I don't need to do it myself, but I have.
But
yeah.
what did they fix, Deb? What did they fix in Mass Effect?
I don't know. You tell me.
The butt shots.
I didn't play...
That's what they fixed.
Oh
in
yeah,
Mass
the butt.
Effect.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they
play,
fixed in Mass
I didn't
Effect.
play Legendary. Yeah. Actually, you know what's quite funny? The modder who took out the butt shots of from Mass Effect 2, put the butt shots back in with a different mod in Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So he did both. The same guy. And you know the meme was like, my goals are beyond your comprehension.
A real chat. He's just like, okay, you don't want to see it, you don't want to see it. You want to see it, you want to see it. Fair.
Yeah, no, I didn't play Legendary Edition because I played through the game like the whole series like a dozen times on the original copy, so I just didn't play Legendary Edition.
Man, like
Yeah.
the ending was such a letdown.
Yeah, it was. You know,
Mass
I
Effect 3 is
I
really
never
good.
really finished Mass Effect 3 whenever I play through it. Like I play 1 and 2 and part of 3, then I just
Well,
kind
the
of
thing is, like,
bored.
Mass Effect 3 is actually really good, a lot better. So Mass Effect is like this. The first one was absolutely amazing. Like when you play it, the first one blows your mind just how good it is.
Yeah.
Second
love
one
the
is
first one.
annoying because like you're doing all these quests outside of the galaxy, you know, at the outer rim, basically, and you're not influencing anything. It's just like a filler story.
Mhm.
And then 3 is like really great again. It's really amazing. It's got like hot chicks and everything, but the ending is just bad.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
tried to fix the ending, but it still doesn't make sense.
I
they had, like,
really
an
like
ending
Mass
patch.
Effect 1. Like the first one's the best. It's the best of the 3 in my opinion.
Malware says, do you have any hope for Elder Scrolls 6 for good faction, good RPG mechanics, and good story? And now that is a good segue into the next topic, Starfield.
Hold on though, I gotta go to the washroom, so do a few more super chats.
The washroom? What are you, homosexual? I expect him to say yes.
Service guarantees citizenship.
Scarf the Strange says, ever played Summoner? Yes, I have. It's a pretty good game for its time. Hell, it could even be a decent game today, as long as you can get past the very potato graphics. Chantal Yin Yang says, your comments bias the vote. Oh, good. Elsie Serrano says, Dev has become so central, Arch needs to market plushie toys of him. Just like a giant pillow. Soft whatever you sit on it. Just, no, like... What are those called, V? Do you know? Like the beanbag chairs. That's what they call beanbag chairs.
I see.
We could make a beanbag chair out of Dev. That would be pretty funny.
Why like the thing with Starfield? Like I never followed it through. I never knew anything about it, and now it comes out, and I look at it, and it's gray and bland, and I'm like, why would I want to play this?
Oh, it's beige.
Convince me, Arch. Convince me to play.
Dev. That's Dev. Yeah. Soft and squishy. I would never convince you to play Starfield because I like you too much, V. I would never do that to you. Paul Damok says, hey people, Dev opens his mouth and says something wrong. Also Dev, is this Dev derangement syndrome? Maybe. Analog Mind, I fear Dev has become something worse than a communist, a blue-pilled neoliberal. Those communists are being rude, but system is working as intended. Not so Daycrawler, I think. Do your removed live streams get re-uploaded somewhere else?
No.
No. See,
No one donated. It was a bad live stream.
See, That's wise as well, because it's additional. If you've got something in there that you think might be some sort of violation of something, remember YouTube changed the terms of service so that now if one of your channels get yeeted, all of your channels get
Heresy's the
yeeted.
question.
Oh no, that
Fire
was
is
always
the
the
answer.
case. But did you notice that they changed the terms of service in our favor now?
Oh, did I? That's rare.
Yeah. So basically, if you do something bad, you get a warning, right?
Oh, right. That's the thing. They've allowed us to take a stupid course to get rid of the warning. Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And apparently, so I don't know if I understood it correctly. I may have not. But like, if you get a warning for hate speech and then you do I don't know, like a spam violation, you get a warning for that as well. So like, if you violate like every TOS like differently, you get like warnings for everyone. I don't know if I read it properly or not.
I mean, that would be better. Like, it's still condescending that you got, like, hate speech. You have to take our course. Hate speech is bad. We're all people together on Earth. Yeah, mm-hmm.
No, but the problem isn't that. The problem is that you could get like your entire channel deleted and they don't even tell you what the fuck you did.
Yes.
Like that's the real issue, right? The fact that you're getting like a community guideline strike, like that's fine because like okay, well I did something bad. I'm not gonna do it again. I understand. But if you're getting like
Wink, wink.
one, yeah, you get one and your entire channel is deleted, then that
Yeah.
sucks.
And it's nice to have the warnings. I saw a very topical joke of this about some military dude. He was doing push-ups, and his drill sergeant was shouting at him. It's like, what did you do? It's push-up. Made a racist joke. Another push-up.
That's funny, actually. That's
Yes.
funny.
So why was it
people were
wrong?
saying that-
Because it's racist. Like, how will you fix it? I won't be racist anymore. And why is that? Because I understand they're people now.
People are saying that I've become a neoliberal. I mean, maybe. I am some form of
What's
liberal. after all.
interesting? I noticed that the left doesn't really believe in like don't do unto others what you don't like to be done to yourself at all.
Well, duh.
Like for
Yeah, of course.
example, yeah, I don't mind if someone comes up and makes like jokes, racist jokes towards me, or uses slurs against me. It just doesn't matter, especially if they do it in a fun way. Like it's just banter, but
Mhm.
like they think that it's inappropriate for you to do it to other people, like even if you like it.
It's just power games. They want to control
is.
you. You know, they
Yeah, it
they
is.
can do things that you can't do because they're moral and you're not. It's as
Yes.
simple as that. Yeah.
I love it. They're moral and you're not.
There was also a request to make merchandise out of you, Dev. A beanbag chair, specifically. Is there something you'd
Yeah,
be
So
interested in?
Arch,
Sure,
tell me if
yeah.
tell me if this narrative is true or not, right? So with the diversity initiatives, you got in video game companies a lot of women and LGBT people entering into middle management, where they get to call the shots, and that's why you get to see people with like homosexual erotica and women being made masculine. Is because these people are creating the games for themselves rather than the general audience.
What does this have to do with Starfield V?
The women look off.
They do. That is actually kind of sort of true.
And people say, well, it's Bethesda, so it's fine. No, like why can't they make proper female characters?
Because Starfield is, of course, was the big news of the week, and everyone was getting ready to play it, except for V, for some weird, strange reason.
I looked at it, I found it not interesting. I was like, this game is a mesh of gray. Nothing in it seems to be interesting. The characters look awful. I would rather just play XCOM 2. The Xenonauts 2, sorry.
I'm probably gonna make a Starfield video because I do have a lot to say about it. I didn't mind it, but it has some serious flaws.
I'm making a whole script on this, because the super chat asked, like, do you still have a hope for Elder Scrolls 6? And I do, because I think Elder Scrolls have solutions to a lot of the problems that Starfield had. But I'm too working on a video basically what lessons Elder Scrolls should learn from Starfield, because they're not a lot. Because
But at least
before it
Elder
came out,
Scrolls is colorful. Like at least it has
well, V, well. That depends on what mod you've got installed, son.
Oh
By the
god.
way, can you do in Starfield the same thing you do in Skyrim? Like you have like the Fighters Guild and the Mages Guild and shit like that, and you join the guilds and.
Sort of,
Yeah.
but they're really bad.
Mm.
Because
You can
before
join like the
Starfield came out,
libertarians and
it was a huge deal. Like there was articles like this: Baldur's Gate 3 versus Starfield, as if this was ever a competition. Because people thought it would be a competition. Now that they're out, I can say hands down, Baldur's Gate 3 sweeps the fucking floor with Starfield. No questions whatsoever.
oh, by the way, the actual choice is Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
I don't know about that. But now that it's actually out, it's like it is every problem Bethesda has been creating for itself over the years, accumulated into one video game. That is really what it is. Like people who played Skyrim on launch, did either of you do that?
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you probably remember there was filters on that too that made everything look slightly beige, not overtly beige, but like everything was had a slight color tint to it.
Mm-hmm.
That was eventually sort of pseudo patched out or given options. Starfield is that in spades. Like everything is like beige or brown, and there's just a filter over the entire screen that makes everything look depressing.
It is depressing. Like you can convey a lot. Like one of the things I liked about Outer Worlds, which was a pretty bad game in my opinion, like woke as fuck. But I like the colors of it. Like it had pretty colors.
Mm-hmm. Starfield has no colors. Like it don't exist pretty much. It lacks that wow effect. Like when you step out from the prison in Oblivion, for example, you're just like, wow, that's a whole world. Or Fallout 3, when you come out of the vault, you see a ruined city, and you see a city in the distance as well, like the dome and the hotel, and everything's like, wow, it's a planet, it's a whole place.
It's still pretty brown though, to be honest, in Fallout 3. But yeah.
Yes. Like Starfield is more brown than Fallout 3, which is sad.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of incredible actually how much brown and bloom and gray they managed to fit into this game.
Isn't it fucking just?
Like that's one of the problems with Fallout, and this is why I never liked that much Bethesda's Fallout compared to the previous ones. The previous ones, while they did have a lot of like gray area like destroyed, but it also had desert, and that was like bright yellow. It had the city environment and the sewers, and it was basically like a lot more different than the depressing Fallout that Bethesda did.
Yes.
Like you don't have different genomes basically. You have, I guess, a couple of them. Like you do go into the sewers, and maybe you do have like everything else is just gray.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess like they wanted to do that. Like they want, like, why not have a desert? Why not have like a bright yellow desert at some point?
It is absolutely an aesthetic choice because it is done via a filter. That's the issue. Like it's obvious. Every environment has the same fucking beige filter drawn over it.
Well, in Fallout 4, they did actually add different biomes. There was the city, and then there was the ruins outside the city. There were like the dead forest. There was what was it called? The radioactive sea. Like they added a bunch of they added biomes in Fallout 4. Just that Fallout 4 had other massive problems.
Fallout 4 was also much brighter.
Mm-hmm.
Service guarantees citizenship.
So I've played a lot of Bethesda games, and I love Bethesda games, all right? When Fallout 3 came out, I loved Fallout 3. I loved New Vegas. I loved Skyrim. I even really liked Fallout 4, even though it had some serious problems from the get-go. I've always loved these games. And the issue... Actually, here, Arch, are you ready for a dev rant? I'm going to be a minute or two. Yeah, have you said all the things you want to say?
Go on.
Okay, so the issue is that Bethesda games get by basically on their world maps. You see this huge world, and there's always things to do. There's marked and unmarked quests. There's hidden little areas that don't even appear on your map. You find a little treasure chest buried under a rock, and it has caps in it or something. it's a big world and there's tons of stuff to explore. You have like patrolling NPCs that are like wandering merchants. You have towns and like the characterization in
question.
Bethesda games has
Fire
always
is
been
the
hit or
answer.
miss. But the worlds, the giant open worlds that you can explore, that's always been the best part of the game. And the issue with Starfield is that it has no world like that. It has all the other pieces of a Bethesda game, right? Like it has like the goofy NPCs that are kind of buggy. All right, it's the same speech system. It's basically the same level up system. The NPCs have the same AI. They like when they're in your like they're just NPCs in the town or they're your companions in your party. They all act the same way as the Bethesda games. But what held it together was the giant open world, and this game has no giant open world. Instead, it has a star map that you fly around. Um, and lots of criticism that I see online right now about the star map is that you just click on somewhere and you just fly there and there's nothing to it. Now, that's not bad in and of itself, right? So here, Arch, just so everyone knows what I'm talking about, pull this up.
A
I'll
lot of
put it in the
people
link
did that
channel.
in Skyrim too. Like they would just fly where they
Yeah.
were needed.
So everyone is saying that this is Bethesda's Mass Effect. And Mass Effect had the same thing. It didn't have an open world, it had a star map. And you choose what system you fly to, and you choose what planet you orbit, and you scan the planet, and you land on the planet sometimes. And Starfield is almost identical to Mass Effect in this regard. There's no open world. It's jumping through systems and going to, like, basically choosing plotting out your course, choosing a map, and you go to a place. So, why is it that Mass Effect is so much more fun, at least so far, than
It
Starfield?
has characters that
It
have
has characters.
personalities.
It has lore.
Yeah, it's got beautiful beautiful colors. It's got the choices that you make. They have repercussions later on. The codex, yeah, it's the lore you mentioned.
Yeah. Bethesda's always been better at making worlds, and BioWare's always been better at making characters. The issue with
Allegedly.
Starfield is that they've made a game with no world, and it has to rely on its characters, and the characters aren't very good. And that's the main issue. They wanted to do Mass Effect, basically, but I don't think they have the writing chops to do Mass Effect.
I am going to finesse it a little bit more when I do a proper video on this, because I agree, but I think there's more granularity to it. But I do agree, like, the issue with the open world is, once you, like, because, honestly, fast travel was a mistake. And it was one of many mistakes that Elder Scrolls has done over the years. Because what it does is it removes a lot of the world. It turns everything into going to Objective A, to Objective B, to Objective C. And Starfield is the culmination of that, where the only thing that exists is Objective A, Objective B, Objective C. And nothing exists outside of this. And it's also because it's not a universe. Mass Effect is a universe. When you go to a planet, you got no idea what you're going to find there. Like savage aliens, pirates, robots, goddamn fucking giant mechanical robot creature like the squids. Reapers, yeah. Like, you have no idea. In Starfield, oh, you know exactly what's in that next set of corridors. More fucking pirates.
Mm-hmm. Well, they might have terramorphs. Terramorphs are a thing in that game, too. But, yeah, it's mostly just, like, human enemies.
Wasn't
pirates.
there, like, a journalist that said that the lowest of the low are the scum that play police in Starfield?
Yep. They were saying that if you play as a police character rather than a pirate, you can do both. If you play as a police character, then you're scummy. And Space ACAB applies.
The storylines are terrible. Like you say, they don't have the writing chops. I think that is beyond question. The main storyline is floating mysterious cube thing in space. You touch it and you see the galaxy. Cool. That is the plot
by the way,
line.
That's Mass Effect. It's the same thing. Like Mass Effect 1 starts with you getting a hold of the beacon. It's the same story.
It's not just Mass Effect. That is half of the sci-fi stories throughout fucking history. It's like you touch the beacon and you go like, whoa. It's the story of Dead Space. It's the story of Mass Effect. Like, fuck. This has been done to death.
I have lost. Deep Space Nine. Benjamin Sisko touches the Bajoran orb. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, because Dead Space is you're the only one who's immune to like the marker, and the marker's the bullshit space rock that's the center of everything.
Yeah, Basically, it's
Actually, you're
a
not even into the
fantastical
market.
world.
You get no, you get the visions and shit. The idea was like the people who were dumb, they get really violent, and the people who are hyper intelligent, they start seeing like formulas and musical notes and shit in order to build more markers.
Yes, and you don't.
Because you're smart, you're an engineer, and you're not the only one. Like there's other people like you.
Yeah, there's a handful of special people, just like in Starfield 2.
Yeah, but you get affected as well. Like you get to see hallucinations and stuff.
So here's the thing. The rest of the game is okay. All right? Like the characters are boring, but Bethesda characters are always kind of boring and they serve the purpose. All right? The combat is about what I expect. Everything else is the same. If it just had a good world to explore, I would say this was like on par with like Fallout 4.
Wait,
Possibly.
are we getting to the point where you need to play for 12 hours in order for the game to be good?
Maybe.
Well, the issue is,
Maybe.
all of the quests are like that. All of the stories are like that. The all-female Crimson Fleet, pirate fleet, for example. It's the most basic bitch story you can imagine. There's a pirate captain, and he's a legend, and he's hid a treasure
Heresy's the
somewhere.
question. Fire is the answer.
How original.
You know what? Given the lore we've seen so far with Saints Row and with all the other bullshit, like just something where a pirate captain hid a treasure somewhere, I want that. Like that actually pleases me.
And you'll go on
It's a lot
adventures
better
with the
than, like,
all-female
White Man.
pirate crews.
Like White Man Evil.
As
the
your
plot
ugly
line is
female
the one
pirate
that-
captain tells you that she needs you to steal a thing from the evil capitalists.
Give me a second, because I feel like you're both lagging out, which means that I'm probably lagging out. Do I sound like I'm lagging out?
Oh,
No.
not at the moment.
Okay. I'll just rejoin. Give me a second.
Heresy's the question. Fire is the answer.
It's also the like you say okay, which I do kind of agree with. Like the combat, but like, is okay good enough at this point? The combat in Starfield is terrible. Like guns have no feel to them. They've got no kick. They've got no recoil. They do no damage to what they hit. There's no like. You don't blow off limbs or explode heads or blow off hands or anything. You just paint little damage decals on them. Like their body turns briefly red in the area you hit them. That's about it. You might as well be shooting them with fucking paintballs. And Fallout to a degree had that as well, but it introduced VATS and it had like damage where you could blow off limbs and stuff. Like the gunplay itself probably wasn't all that much better, but the addition of VATS and the addition of like catastrophic damage made it feel better. Starfield has none of that.
The catastrophic damage was a perk you had to take. Normally the game didn't have that, right?
Oh no, it did, but the gib made it more extreme.
Okay. And the VATS thing, I remember back when Fallout 3 was still in development, they were saying the only reason they were adding VATS is to honor the turn-based roots of Fallout 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, the Elder Scrolls didn't have anything like VATS as far as I can remember.
No, they don't. And the issue is, like, VATS was actually a good addition, because it added in another element to the combat. Because the gunplay was not good by any stretch of the imagination, and it's worse in Starfield. Adding on the VATS system, and being able to, like, take precise aim and damage specific limbs, and see advantages of damning those limbs, like making them drop weapons, etc., that made a shit combat system, at the very least, acceptable.
I hated the VAT system because it removed the first-person shooter aspect. It was like now it's like playing an RPG, and you're playing that, and it removes all the skill required, and it's just like percentage based, and it was meh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but
Yeah.
you could just
I
completely not play
kind of
with
feel
it.
the same as V, yeah.
You could just not use it, and it's a first-person shooter now.
Yeah, but like it's there and it's tempting. It's like
Yeah,
why-
exactly. Like if the game lets you use it, you'd be stupid not to do it. So the game should take it away, basically.
Yeah, especially when the game is balanced around it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the game's balanced around it, but
yeah. it
Well,
is,
to be
it
fair,
is.
Fallout 4's VATS was better because at least it didn't freeze the game; it just put it into bullet time. So you still had to make relatively quick choices.
I still don't.
That was a little bit better.
the issue is
Yeah,
like
it-
because it I don't think it ruined anything, because without it, it would just have been really shit combat.
Yeah, but then make good combat and remove
Yeah,
that
but they
shit.
didn't make good combat, nor can
No,
they
but,
make
like-
good combat.
What, you can't
Like,
make a
removing
first-person
VATS
shooter?
wouldn't make the shooting in Fallout any better.
No, you make the shooting better, is what I'm saying. Instead of developing resources into VATS, you develop resources into the shooting.
They wouldn't. Like, because Starfield doesn't have VATS, and Starfield has even worse gunplay.
Even like Arch, oh my fucking god! It's like if you build a tree house and you put only 2 logs on it, and I say like, well, make it better.
Yeah.
Like, you
Then
can actually
Bethesda
add more
comes
logs.
along and takes away a log.
Yeah, that's the
Now you have a
problem.
1-log treehouse.
Like this is what I don't get, because now that I'm doing game development, I kind of understand how it's done, and I just don't get it. Like, it's not a problem of resources or anything.
Hold on. Someone in the chat just said Fallout 4 VATS felt like a downgrade because the same juice to use VATS was also the juice to sprint. I actually think that's an improvement. Like if you have like a stamina meter and both sprinting and using VATS uses it, because then at least once you get more stamina, you can use it for something else. Because you couldn't do that in Fallout 3. You just you got level ups and they gave you more points in VATS, and it's like, well, okay. Basically, like if you made in Fallout 3, if you made a gun-based thing, a gun-based character, you had to take VATS and you had to use VATS. But in Fallout 4, all the VATS upgrades also apply to your basic stamina, so you at least you don't have to use it.
Speaking of the stamina system, how intriguing did you find Starfield's stamina is oxygen?
It was kind of interesting when you had both like an oxygen meter that had to stay high and a CO2 meter that had to stay low, and how they kind of eat into each other if you're like running too hard. I didn't mind that. That was kind of cool.
Do you know that it also increases if you're carrying too much?
Yep.
Yeah. I hated it because the only thing it did was it discouraged me from looting, plus the fact that selling things is difficult in that game. So I just stopped looting stuff. And it's really retarded that I can kill myself by simply walking along a corridor that has air in it.
Wait,
is
it that bad? Holy shit!
Yeah, so if you're carrying too much, it starts to drain your oxygen because your oxygen is your stamina, and so you'll just fall over and die because you're carrying too much stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. How it worked in Fallout is you just lose like movement speed. You just walk slow.
That would be the more natural thing to do.
Oh well.
Now, a lot of these, because the one thing I will say, a lot of these problems will not affect Elder Scrolls as much, because Elder Scrolls has a world. This was Bethesda's attempt to create a new IP, and they have utterly failed in my opinion, because there is nothing in Starfield. There's nothing interesting there. Like, I don't care about the Crimson Fleet, I don't care about the, like, New Atlantis, whatever they called it, etc. It's all boring beige garbage. There's nothing cool there. Like, even the companion characters, which I thought were better done than any other Elder Scrolls previously, because they've got a lot of dialogues, and they've got lots of topical dialogue as well. When you get to a new place, they'll tell you a little bit about that place, etc. They completely fail to pull me in because they don't look like companion characters. Like Sarah, the first one you get. She looks like a random NPC. There's nothing special about her whatsoever.
Well, to
But
be
did
fair,
you know-
Vasco's the first one you get, and he looks like he's a main person. 'Cause he's a robot.
Vasco?
And also Vasco, yeah, he's kind of interesting. Yeah,
He's just a carrier robot. You see dozens of them on the planet.
I haven't seen any yet, but no, like you can take him
Yeah.
with you after. Yeah, like he's good. I like him.
Have you guys considered playing Blasphemous too?
I haven't even heard of it, to be honest.
I'm pretty sure the chat that knows. It's the game that takes inspiration from like the Catholic, the Spanish type of Catholicism, where you're supposed to whip yourself in order to gain penance, where you're supposed to like do painful things to destroy the body and purify the soul.
Nope, never even heard of it.
Try leaving and rejoining, V. You're lagging out a little bit.
Right.
So am I. Everyone's lagging out. It sounds like.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
Might be Discord.
Can we change the which server we're using? I don't mean like in terms of the streaming server. I meant like the Discord has like a server setting. You can use their servers, like a different one of theirs.
The server setting thingy, yes. Let me see.
Yeah, the server region.
I'll try changing it to US East.
I don't even know how to do it.
Looks like it might have stabilized a bit. But
I think
okay.
you gotta do it because it's your server, right? Yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta do it.
I've done it. Sarah, the character, she has a British accent, and she comes across as if she should look rather aristocratic. Right? She should look educated and refined. She doesn't. She's wearing a leather jacket. She's wearing short, pale, beige hair because everything is beige, and like she looks like an NPC. Like when you look at Miranda in Mass Effect, she looks like a main character. Jack looks like a main character. Like you can tell a main character in the storyline to the point where in most games, when you see an NPC, you probably know that they're recruitable. Like when you see Shadowheart, she's obviously recruitable. When you see Galen with his hand out of a rock, he's obviously recruitable, etc. Sarah is just incredibly boring. And yet she is one out of only 4, quote-unquote, romanceable characters.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Oh, fuck. So if you want to piss off the woke about female characters in Western media, you say, why do they look like Baki characters? You guys don't know what Baki is. Fucking hell.
No clue. Sorry.
You play Saints Row, all right? Like, why am I even having this conversation? Like, it's obvious that your hobbies are completely different than mine. I will show you what Baki is, though.
Sorry about that. But yeah, even looking back at previous Bethesda games, the companions you could get, they look like companions, right? Like if you, you know, look at Fallout 3, you know, Butch looked like somebody you could actually run with, and you could, you know, Fox, the big super mutant guy, the black girl who was a paladin, all right, they looked like recruitable characters in Fallout 3. And in Fallout 4, I mean, some of them look like recruitable characters, not all of them. Some of them just look like NPCs, but like some of them did look like recruitable characters. So, yeah, it seems to be an art direction choice in this game specifically.
To just make them look like regular people.
Don't they look like female characters, Arch?
Definitely. Oh,
and if you say it on Twitter, it enrages them. Like I got a couple of social justice activists that had to DM me to insult me further. Like they were really upset. You tell them like, why do the women look like Baki characters?
This is also a part of because they were bragging about this before Starfield came out, that they built this whole in-world system where they had like scanned people's faces and stuff, and they're like, oh, we want to make normal people basically in space. The issue is, I don't want to play normal people in space. I am in fucking space. Why would I want to interact with normal people? You
know what's interesting? Like, they remove aliens now. Because, like, ever since Dungeons and Dragons came up with the idea that, oh, well, it's racist to have orcs and shit, they keep removing the fantasy races. Or they're watering down the fantasy races to the point where it doesn't really matter because like they all act like humans anyway.
Yes, like the Starfield, this entire idea that everything should be normal is just retarded. It's actually retarded. Like Starfield, like I kind of appreciate the interior of the ships because you know what, like semi-realistic ship insides, like NASA-esque. Like, that's a new style. Like, I haven't seen that style before, so I'm like, okay, cool, that's something unique. But no aliens? Fuck, it's a space game. What is a space game without aliens? Boring, that's what.
You don't know, you can't do it. I mean, so, what was it? The Expanse did it, right? And by the way, there's a video game, The Expanse. I haven't played it yet, but I should.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a really interesting story of humanity goes out into the stars and discovers there's nothing out there.
Battlestar Galactica did it? Yeah, Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica had aliens.
No, the remake didn't. It had Cylons. Like so the first one did, but then they made a remake which was very popular, ran alongside Stargate, if you remember.
At least then there's robots, you know. That's fairly alien. But like, okay, you could have a good story. That's a point, Dev. Just like V makes a point, and you could have a good shooting, except you don't.
Yeah, they didn't do it. They didn't do it. So, I am at least a little bit interested in the Starfield story. The like the main political strife, like between the two factions and the war that they had, I don't really care about that too much. But the mystery of the Terramorphs has got me a little bit hooked in. I'm getting reeled in on the Terramorph aspect of the story.
And that is.
Well, just where did they come from and like what their deal is? Because the chat, yeah, I'll just tell you like the first little thing, so you're not spoiled too much. Basically, around between 60 and 80 years after humanity settles a new planet, terramorphs start appearing out of fucking nowhere and just start killing people, and nobody knows why.
Xenomorphs? Like what are they? How do they look?
They're basically like death claws, like Fallout death claws. Yeah, they're like 10 feet tall and they just like rip through you. They're ridiculous monsters.
And like humans don't have the weapons to deal with them? Or?
They do, but it takes a lot of them.
See, I didn't even see one in my 8 hours in the game, I think.
Really?
Yep.
Well, one of the first quests is to go after one, and we did that one right away on the stream. On my stream, yeah. Okay, so once you can join one of the factions you can join is lost. Like the they're basically the Starship Troopers faction. Like if you just serve with them and do some jobs, you become a citizen. Those guys, they're called like the UC something. I forget the name of them.
Oh, United Colonies thingy.
Yeah, United Colonies. Yeah, the first job you do for them sends you out to a planet. It's like there's like a meat packing facility actually. It's kind of funny because it's like go to the meat packing warehouse on another planet, and it's a planet. It's like the meat packing planet. Okay, this makes sense, Bethesda. But so you go to the meat packing planet, right? 'Cause that's all there fucking is there. And you show up and everyone's dead. And you're like, oh, okay. And they've all been killed by terramorphs, and it's like, oh. And there's like one person who's alive, like hiding in the darkness. And she's like, okay, here's the plan. You're gonna run around and activate all the sentry turrets, and then lead the terramorph into their line of fire, and then I'll shoot them from the control room. So you spend this kind of there's this manic open area where you're running around like jumping from shadow to shadow as this thing's trying to find you, trying to turn on all of these breakers to activate the turrets. And if it like catches you, it's like game over. It just comes over and kills you. So it's actually kind of it's a very like it's a good part of the game. I really enjoyed it. Because you're trying to hide and he's trying to sniff you out, and then eventually like he like starts chasing you and you have to lead him into the fire zone, and then you have to start fighting him. It's actually a fun part of the game, and it basically starts the Terramorph quest.
See, I found that
finding out who
planet,
they are,
but I didn't have the quest, so for me it was just an empty fucking hole in the ground.
Oh, that sucks. That sucks. But yeah, it was a fun quest, and basically you from the Terramorph corpse, you like loot some genetic material and you have to go get it scanned, and then it unfolds this giant conspiracy in the storyline. It's the one part of the game I'm really enjoying.
The one part of the game he's enjoying.
Really, I mean, the rest of it's like okay, but this is actually like, oh, this is like I'm now hooked. I want to see where this goes specifically. Hold on a second.
Well, I'm gonna have to leave it, especially since I can't add anything to this conversation. My wife is gonna kill me if I keep staying. So,
okay, see ya.
Thanks for having me.
I'm not a fan of Starfield.
Wait,
I'm...
what? He's leaving an hour early?
He is apparently.
Jeez. Okay.
But I'm very interested in seeing what will happen when the reviews come out on the 6th and the Steam reviews get unlocked. Because I'm interested in seeing if the normies are going to lap this up.
I don't know. They might. I'm not sure.
They might. They might. Like the forums look very divided right now. The Steam forums.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I've seen the normies eat up a lot of weird stuff in the past, but I feel like this game might actually be pushing that envelope quite hard.
You know what? I think there's enough of an appearance of a game here that they'll be all right. Like, if you don't look too hard at the space flight sequences, they seem okay. The minute you push on the edges of them, it all falls apart, right? The illusion immediately breaks. But, like, if you're just playing this game casually, and you're just a normie, and you're not like you don't know anything about game design, you don't know anything about like the history of Bethesda games, you're just like picking it up just to try it, you might have fun with it. Yeah.
I'm
I
not
think
so sure because there needs to be something to. There needs to be something to grab onto there, and there's very little to grab onto in Starfield.
maybe. So for me, I mentioned earlier that Bethesda games that kind of live and die by the immenseness of their open world, and how Starfield has no open world. It would actually be a pretty simple way to fix this game, and everyone in the chat's been saying this. Everyone on Twitter's been saying this too. If it just had space flight like No Man's Sky, it would be a much better game.
Quite possibly. At the very least, it would be a better game.
Yeah. So here's how the spaceflight works. Okay, let's say you're going to go to a planet, and you have your star map. You have your Mass Effect star map open, and you're going to a planet. You select your planet, you select your system. It zooms in on the system. You select your planet. You hit jump, and then your ship flies over there. Right. Now, in Mass Effect, you just land on the planet, and you go to like whatever it is, whatever location you're going to. In Starfield, you appear in orbit. And then from orbit, there's this extra step of landing on the planet. So you'd think, well, maybe there's things to do in orbit, and sometimes there's satellites, there's ships, there's space stations, there's debris floating around. And it makes you think, oh, I can just fly around actually in space. But you can't. It only seems like you can, because when you enter into orbit, you're in like this cube of space, and there's just the facade of the planet in the distance, and you can't actually fly anywhere. You can fly around whatever happens to be there. You can fly around the ships or the debris or whatever it is, and as soon as you like go to the edge of flyable space, you stop moving, and it just seems like you're flying further and further because the effects of the game has like stars flying by or whatever. So it seems like you're moving, but you're not actually really moving. You're stuck in this one cube of space, and you can't actually fly from planet to planet or from system to system without zooming back out to your galaxy map. And also, when you land on the planet, it just loads another map, right? Now, No Man's Sky had a lot of problems when it first came out. Tons of problems. It was notoriously bad when it first came out. But one thing it did well is that it actually had a full galaxy you could fly around in. You could you're in your ship, and you fly down to the surface of the planet, and you actually fly, and you actually land on the planet. And then you actually can fly off. It doesn't load a new map or anything like that. It's all seamless. And you can fly from system to system. You can fly from planet to planet. You can fly all over the place. There wasn't much to do in that game. It was just the novelty of having just a big galaxy you can fly around in. So they just have to combine these two systems. Give it No Man's Sky's flying. You can just land on the planet, fly around the star map on your own, and leave everything else exactly the way it is. And it will be a much more interesting game.
It would be better. I still suspect that there's just... Because I need a motivation to do the flying thing. And because one of the first things I did when I got to the first capital planet was just to wander off into the wilderness and see, okay, what's here? Is there something to hook me in? Because one of the coolest things about Elder Scrolls or Fallout is you can just wander off in a direction and you'll be on an adventure. You'll find something interesting out there. In Starfield, eventually, a bunch of space pirates landed next to me in a ship and attacked me for no fucking reason. I found a pirate base, and then I found another pirate base, and then I found a burned-out series of empty vehicles that had presumably been attacked by pirates. So, pirates, probably pirates.
Mm-hmm.
That is an incredibly dull world.
Well, to be fair, in Fallout, if you walk in a random direction, you're probably just going to encounter either animals or raiders, especially at the start, and that's it. Animals, raiders, right?
Well, actually, that depends. Like, if you head in certain directions, you could head. Let's New Vegas, for example, right?
Okay, New Vegas is different. Yeah, I'm talking about Fallout 3. Yeah, New Vegas.
Fallout 3. I haven't played it so long, I don't even know, but. You can run into various things, like there are mutants, there are super mutants, there are deathclaws, there are raiders, there are tribals, there are animals. Like, the thing is, there is variety in the stuff in the world. And there's some variety in Starfield as well, but it basically boils down to animals, pirates, robots. That's not enough enemy variety for an entire video game, especially as the majority of the time, it's pirates.
Yeah, yeah. So here's a good way to think of it, right? When you're playing a Fallout game and you go into a vault or you go into like a cave, basically somewhere where it loads a new map and you get a loading screen and it loads into like a more linear experience where you're kind of going through and looting and fighting enemies, corridors and rooms, right? All of those locations in a regular Bethesda game, those are the planets or the stations in this game.
Yes.
All right. The open world that connects all of them together should be that giant Bethesda open world that they're so well known for. But in this game, it is just the galaxy map. And that's the problem. That's why I think if they actually made an open world, it'd be a different type of open world because it'd be like a No Man's Sky open world. But if they actually made an open world and populated it with stuff, you would have a much better experience playing this game. Because then going from planet to planet would actually be an adventure in and of itself. And it should be an adventure in and of itself, and not just selecting something on a map.
Yes. It should be an adventure. It needs to be an adventure. Otherwise, it's boring.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing, like, I still think the game is, like, okay. I'd wait for a sale if you wanted to pick it up. Wait for like a half-off sale or something. It's still worth playing. It's just not worth playing at $80 or whatever, right? It's an okay game. It's an
give it a year or two, and then mod the fuck out of it.
Yes. Mod it, for sure.
Basically. Alright, to save a little bit of time to Super Chats at the end too, we'll do the last brief topic, because it's not too long. You might have heard this. The Actors Guild strike is trying to expand into video games. So let's see if I can find it here. Yep.
You have so many tabs open.
Many tabs. So they had a vote the other day about whether or not they could move into the video game industry and ask people who were actors in video games, so like the mocap people, the voice actors, etc., to get them to strike. They did that vote today, and they will now be doing that. And they had a list of them. I don't know if I can find the list, but Blizzard was one of the companies, because of obviously Blizzard has a union. Because, yeah, of course.
Yep.
That will also then begin affecting the video game companies, but pretty much only the big ones, and pretty much only even then the more progressive ones that allowed this in the first place.
So what's interesting to me is that generally when a union wants to
Service
strike,
guarantees
it's because they've had some
citizenship.
sort of breakdown with their negotiation, right? The contract's up, they're negotiating a new contract, labor wants one thing, business wants another. They can't compromise, and so they strike. And that's the reason, right? But as far as I understand it, the people working in the gaming industry, their contract isn't up, at least not right now. And they're like, they don't seem to be having the same problems that the rest of these other industries are having. So it's just like, it just feels like, hey, listen, our union, one sector of our union is striking in a different industry. Therefore, in order to put pressure on the capitalists, we're just going to have other unrelated sectors go on strike. And it's like, why? What the fuck? Like, this is not normal union behavior.
Well, it's because the Screen Actors Guild thing is a very broad definition of terms, shall we say. And it includes a lot of what we wouldn't normally consider actors, like the stunt guys, for example, or the dudes who do mocap, or even the voice actors, in fact, all of this. And they're doing this despite the fact that it isn't really relevant to what they're doing, because they're desperately trying to get some sort of push through. They want some sort of effect, some sort of power. And what they're moving towards is an attempt of an
Service
entertainment
guarantees
shutdown. Because they realize they're looking at everything that's happening now, and they go, well, shit, nobody seems to care if we shut down television and movies. So what are the kids into these days? Oh, the video games. What if we try to shut that down?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. Is that they realize no one cares about the strikes in the other industries, so they're coming after things that people actually do care about now. Since I mean, if you look up how much each industry makes, you know, gaming is probably I think it's bigger than TV now. I think it's
Yes.
bigger than movies now. Like it's huge.
Gaming is one of the largest, like, industries on the planet now. It's huge. And they're hoping this might recreate, I think, something like from the last strike, where people were like, okay, get this done. We want our entertainment back. Because that is really the only thing that the screen actors and the writers have. They're trying to hold the entertainment hostage. Because back in the day, they also could go like, okay, this actor won't promote your stuff. And back when actors were a big deal, that was effective, you know? When Leonardo DiCaprio went on television with like, hey, watch Titanic. You went, oh, Titanic. Now, if some actor goes on television to talk about it, he'll probably just sit there insulting the fandom, really. You'll get the Snow White treatment. Like, yeah, actually, I really fucking hate Snow White. I watched it once as a kid and then never again. Like, oh, yeah, that helps.
Also, the issue ultimately is everyone's gaming backlog is so stuffed that if everyone stopped making video games for the next 5 years, I don't think anyone would care. There's so many games to play. There's so many movies and shows to watch that have already come out. Like these people have way less leverage in this negotiation than they think they have.
Yes, because they don't understand their own flagging value. Yet again, this is the topic we'll always come around to when we talk about this strike. They think they have a lot more influence than they actually do. Even the companies that they do have influence over here, like Blizzard, what are you going to do? You're going to delay the next season of Diablo 4? Does anyone
who
care?
cares, right? Or like, hey, so there's no more shows being made in the West, right? Or in North America. Guess what? The UK is still making shows. There's still production happening elsewhere. Like, just go watch something else. You know, it's not like you're stuck with like the 3 cable TV networks that you get. You have an entire internet full of content. You have YouTubers, right? Man, I've heard whispers that they want like YouTubers to start showing some solidarity with the actors and the writers.
Yes. In fact, they've already started talking about that. Because, again, you're entirely correct. Like, if you run out of entertainment today, go download Oz, for example, a fantastic old, like, prison drama show, and it's got, like, 6 seasons. You have hours and hours and hours of entertainment there. Or go download the original Star Wars movies, or Starship Troopers, or the original Star Trek, etc. There's so much out there.
Yep. I don't know exactly what the story is for the YouTuber part of this whole thing, but I do know, like, I've heard some people say that like either YouTubers should like morally stop making content in solidarity, or there are like some actually no I think what it was, I think it was, sometimes YouTubers will do like voice spots or actor spots as like a celebrity cameo type thing to get the kids interested or whatever, and they're asking them to stop doing that. I think it's something like that.
I found it here. So, SAG-AFTRA relatively recently opened up the ability for influencers to join the Screen Actors Guild, which, again, is just one of those widening of terms. SAG-AFTRA is no longer an actors guild. It's a whatever the hell union, basically, because you can't survive as a single entity. So if you join it, they will totally protect you. Against whom? I don't know. Like, I don't actually know what the benefits would possibly be to join SAG-AFTRA as an influencer. It's like, what? Are they going to call up YouTube? It's like, why did you delete this person's channel? 'Cause.
Yeah, it's usually it's because there's a contract that the union has with the employer. But YouTubers don't view themselves as employed by YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
No, they view themselves as self-employed, and YouTube is just like a medium that they use.
And that's how YouTube views you as well, whilst also dodging all of the usual requirements for, well, freelance work too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you recall this, but a couple of years ago there was this big push to turn, it was either Uber or Lyft in California into regular employment.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who were very pro-union and like more left-leaning, they said this was going to be a good idea because it would finally secure the jobs of these people. They wouldn't be freelance workers anymore. They would actually have steady employment with a steady income. But then all the people who actually work these jobs came out and said, we don't want this. And the reason we don't want this is because we like the flexibility this job provides. Because if you have to work 9 to 5, then suddenly you've lost control. But if you're working an Uber driver, you just go on your phone, go to your Uber app, like your Uber employment app, and you say, I'm available. And now you can start taking drives whenever you want. You clock in when you want, you clock out when you want. Your pay is based on how many drives you do. So it's an entirely voluntary system where you can just like squeeze an hour of work in between other obligations. But if you made it into regular employment, you destroy the appeal of being an Uber driver.
Mm-hmm. Now,
and I think it's kind of the same thing with influencers, where there's an appeal of being on your own that would be destroyed by making them regular employees.
I see parts of the argument. Because the thing is, over here in Norway, there's a whole lot of rules and regulations you have to abide by, even if you were having people like work for you freelance, etc., or simply providing you with services. Whereas YouTube, you have no rights via YouTube. YouTube can yeet your ass tomorrow. They don't even need to tell you why they yeeted you. You have no power over them. So some sort of actual codification of the job of content creator as a job, I think would be very beneficial. What that need to look like, I honestly don't know. I haven't thought about it enough. But we do need more anti-platform protection, probably is how I'd put it. But the thing you mentioned about the content creators. So now that content creators can join SAG-AFTRA, they have also released guidelines on how to behave. And they are encouraged to avoid promoting shows and movies, even those who aren't part of the union. So that's probably what you saw as whispers of trying to get content creators to stand by their sides.
Yeah. Now, of course, like this has no force behind it, so it's just them being moral busybodies, right? It's like, well, I don't have to do anything that you want me to do. Like, fuck you. I'll watch any show I want to watch, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But they're definitely trying to kind of generate some sort of solidarity here, where it's like, well, we're all entertainers. It's like, yeah, well, I hate you, though.
Yeah, we're all entertainers. No. I have a business. You have a shift.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference, is that, like, well, to be fair, if we think back to the Patreon purge from, like, was it 5 years ago now or something? The argument that Patreon was using is that all the creators who use Patreon are employed by Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, they even had like a veiled threat in there. It's like, you know, be thankful we don't own your businesses too. It's like, well, fuck you, right? Like, no, you're a service that I've contracted to use to move some money for me. That doesn't mean that you own my business, right? YouTube doesn't own anybody's business just because they use YouTube. Just like any other channel doesn't, or any other platform doesn't own the business. So I think there's been some slow push to like redefine independent content creators as employees, and I think they want that because that brings control, right? It brings centralized control over them. But I think just because of the nature of the legal contracts and the way things were set up initially, it's probably going to be very hard to do in the long run.
Well, it's both things. Like it is a bit of a give and take in many ways, because if you are actually employed, quote unquote, you have rights. Whereas if you are not and you have no connection to YouTube, you have no rights. So we need some sort of middle of the road thing where you are not actually an employee of YouTube, but you do have certain rights over your brand, which is linked to YouTube. Like if you have a YouTube channel, that brand and that content is yours, but YouTube is clearly an integral part of that brand. It's the same way that what it should be considered a utility to an extent, in the same way that the power company can't just go like, I don't like you, and cut off your fucking power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. I guess the issue is like, we're now at the point where people are getting debanked, right? I think
Yes.
like Nick Fuentes lost a bank account or something. People are losing their bank accounts for having the wrong opinions, and it's like, well, no, there should be for the things that everyone needs to survive, like unless you're a terrorist or something, there should be like this idea that everyone can access that on an equal playing field. Equality makes sense in that case.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There needs to be something there, but it definitely does not need to be the Screen Actors Guild. I feel I have about as much in common with the average Screen Actors Guild unionist as I do with the average flying pig, probably. Other bovine or equine animals outside my window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, people have pushed the idea of like a YouTuber union, right? Where it's just YouTubers and it's for YouTubers, and it's like I wouldn't even join that though. Why would I want to?
I like the idea. Like in theory, as okay, we can use our numbers to negotiate with YouTube. Sure, if you get something done, we'll see. But the YouTubers union has been going now for like 5 or 6 years. They have gotten absolutely nothing done because they don't have any actual power. That's the issue. We don't really have any force via the YouTube. Like, okay, we can stop working. YouTube shrugs its shoulders as another million people sign up to be to try to be content creators tomorrow.
Yeah, there's not much to it. There are some people in the chat who are complaining like who defines what a terrorist is, Dev. That's the libertarian argument against just the use of political power, and I get the point, but I don't find it to be a useful critique because you can always you can use any mechanism whatsoever to simply define your enemies as bad and then move against them. All right, that's just politics. That's just life. That's the nature of living with other people. And if you don't do it, then your enemies will do it to you. So I don't see that as like a proper critique of this topic.
I do believe, though, that I wouldn't be surprised that if they tried to make a move on influencers after the video games, because they're trying video games now, it still won't get them any sympathy, I think. And after that, on like month 5 or 6 of this, as the Hollywood companies still just sit there looking at them like, you hungry yet? I wouldn't be surprised if they would then try to move on to the next thing, to just figure out some way to get people to sympathize with them. Because they must by now surely realize that they're not very fucking popular.
Yep. I mean, it hasn't broken records yet, but I think once it does, like if they hit a year, they must figure at that point, like, no one wants your shows back. No one wants your movies back. No one wants you back. Like they're happy that you're gone.
It's like, wait, you're not going to ask us to bring back the Rings of Power? No.
That is coming. That is coming.
To be fair, I think that's being shot in England, so don't worry. The Rings of Power will happen.
Yep, unfortunately. I did see today that like Last of Us Season 2 is already like set to go. They're just waiting for this shit to be done. And it's like, we already know what's going to happen.
Yep. There will be no shockers there.
It's going to be Joel in one golf. We all know what's going on.
Strikes. Mm-hmm. Unions are a cancer upon this earth and will be eradicated, Dev.
I'm neutral on them. I've seen some good unions. I've seen some bad ones. It really just depends on the situation.
Sure you are, Mr. Communist.
Yeah. The chat is reeing against my anti-libertarian take. The honest truth is, libertarianism sounds real good until you understand they're politically ineffective and they never do anything because they're afraid to take the reins of power. They say, oh, government bad, and then the government is used against them. It's like, well, looks like you guys were a waste.
I mean, it's a difficult point to argue against, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right, with actually some time to spare this week, we can actually do some super chats. Wow. Let's see, where were we? So John says, I'm remembering an ad for blood donations where they're asking for mixed race donors. There was a string of comments saying that was racist. Are there blood differentials between people? Well, yeah, I mean like blood types,
Yeah.
but
I think there's some. I know for bone marrow there definitely is.
oh yeah, bone marrow, absolutely.
For blood, I think so. I mean, isn't sickle cell anemia a blood disease, and black people are more susceptible to it? So maybe there's something there.
Yeah, true. I never really thought about it. I figured blood was blood, but but again, like that, you should do that video they requested about the evolution and how left doesn't understand it, because it does.
Oh, I have an idea for it. Yeah.
It does. How do I put it? It spotlights the
Service
flaws of their
guarantees
worldview
citizenship.
very well when you can point out, like, yeah, but you said you believed this, and now you're saying this. Their only option then is to either say, yeah, I lied, or I'm a retard.
To be honest,
Service guarantees
I didn't get to
citizenship.
say it earlier, but some of them do just straight out say, "Yeah, we lied." Like
Yeah.
the gay marriage conversation, they've come out and said, "Yes, we were lying about that to get you to move more leftward with us, but we actually think that everything is socially constructed, and there is no biology, there is no essential gay biology or a gay gene or anything like that." So some of them will just say, "Yeah, we were lying to you."
Well, Dev, in that case, my position has become criminalize gay marriage and enforce conversion therapy.
Well, see, I still ultimately believe in there is, a natural gayness that comes about due to genetics or something that can't be changed through socialization, and like I still believe in that fundamentally.
Well,
That's the liberal position, not the extremist position. at this point.
we can put this to the test. I'll have 220 volts, and you'll be in a chair, and we'll see how long you remain homosexual.
It might turn me more homosexual, actually.
Maybe. See, that is a genuine discussion, though. Like the decriminalization of homosexual marriage is obviously a good thing, because I don't fucking care who you want to have sex with. I don't care.
Yeah.
I do think we need another debate on whether or not it should be allowed in churches, or on whether or not it should be able to be forced, or if you should just be able to find a priest who says, like, okay, I'm willing to do it, in which case, what do I care?
Yeah.
But it should be investigated, because if people are actually saying that they did this on a false premises, they argued for it from a false premises, then it might be interesting to see what the population says then, when the cards are fully on the table.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like, if the state is going to have equal access to institutions, then it should have equal access. It's as simple as that, right? Obviously, you shouldn't force somebody who's religious to officiate a wedding that they don't agree with.
Yes.
Heresy is the
Well,
question.
so here's a
Fire
funny
is the
thing.
answer.
Tool Freak says, "I just want to be left alone, Dev. Are you saying that to be left alone, I have to actively control other people?"
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No.
The libertarians are wrong about this. They're utopians. They're idealists. All right. Either you literally live alone in the woods and hope no one comes knocking at your door, or if you live in a society, you have to engage in politics. You cannot abolish politics.
It sounds retarded, but no, that is actually true. Like, this is why you build a fence around your private property, because otherwise some fucking rando hipster wandering through the woods is going to pee on your porch.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, we do... the thing is, we had a society that was like, do whatever the hell you want. The state will mostly just be over there. And then we started moving it more and more. And that seems to be one of the almost inevitable spirals of democracy until it eventually gets reset. Probably, I don't know, theoretically.
I'm not sure if it's democracy. I think it's just government. Just
Yeah.
the nature of having political organization itself.
No, I think it is more like democracy, because if you have a strict authoritarian system, it's probably going to be interested in just keeping everything as it always was. Like, feudalism was not very fluctuating, for example.
Gotta think about it.
Service guarantees
Ike of Pike
citizenship.
says, new version of Bloodlines 2. You're playing an elder now. The original script has been scrapped, and now it's being made by the Chinese room Dear Esther. I don't know about that. Isn't that one of those, like, walking simulators, or am I confused?
It is true. So, the Chinese Room is a British. I don't know why it's called the Chinese Room, but it's a British indie developer, They've done some walking simulators like Dear Esther and Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, but they also did Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs. So they've done real games too.
Ooh, I don't know about that. I've heard very bad things about that one.
Yep, but they have been brought
I
in to
have
finish up
lost-
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines too.
I mean, in a perfect world, a developer that is heavily focused on, let's be charitable here and say atmospheric and story content, would not be a bad fit for a Vampire the Masquerade game, which was also heavily focused on story and characters and atmosphere, the first one, that is. So, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. It could work. I mean, the previous version definitely wasn't going anywhere. And if they've scrapped all of that, then good. Because I went to Germany to see that gameplay demo, and fuck, it looked awful. So yeah, if they burned all of that to the ground and simply started anew, well, that alone is a good start.
Well, they're still claiming it's coming out next year, so they can't have burned it all to the ground.
I think they can claim whatever they want to have. I don't think it's going to come true.
I don't think. I think the game is just done. They're gonna be on. It's gonna be on life support for the next 20 years.
Yeah, like... Yeah. From what I saw at the Paradox Con in Germany, it didn't look fun, it didn't look done, it didn't look interesting or complete in any way whatsoever. It looked stale and boring and uninteresting and poorly voice acted, poorly choreographed. I suppose they might simply transform it into something completely different, trim down the scope and scale, make it like a 2-hour experience, and then sell it, hoping that the hype will carry it through. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time Paradox did that.
Yep.
I'll be shocked and surprised if it turns out to be a worthy sequel to The Masquerade, though. Very shocked and surprised.
Listen, this is why you can make fun of me as much as you want. This is why I am a Nintendo cuck, okay? Because say what you want. When the games come out, they are what they're advertised, and they generally don't have that many bugs. Isn't not that many game-breaking bugs, and they're good. I'll take it. I'll take the reliability at this point from Nintendo.
The mindset of a habitual loser. Dev, you gotta aim for the stars, even if the result is Starfield. Noah Fan says, I have a riddle for you. Would someone who defends cuties and hates lollies be okay with a faithful anime adaptation of cuties? No. Because, again, the reason why they're okay with cuties, and let me leap to the defense of the left here, isn't necessarily because they're pedos. Necessarily,
Sometimes they are, but not always.
Exactly. It's because it's political. That's why it is. Like, okay, so, but this is creative license, and the right really hates it, so we must defend it regardless. That's what they're gonna do. And I will say, so, have you seen the One Piece live-action adaptation?
Yep, it looks fucking terrible.
It actually isn't, shockingly enough.
Really?
So, I described it as anime for people who hate anime.
Oh, okay.
Because it
Give it a
tries...
start on then.
Yeah, maybe. And I found this very interesting. I found it. Let me just claim this achievement here. So I was sent this by Little Boog. This is exactly what I mean. So this is a guy who says, I started watching this show on Netflix called One Piece. I'd never heard of it before. It's incredible. This is real TV, not like that anime bullcrap everyone keeps trying to get me to watch. I hate anime. This, however, is an American original genuine piece of cinema.
Okay.
Literally. One Piece is anime for people who hate anime.
Oh. Yeah, I always heard that was Attack on Titan, to be honest. But I guess, okay.
I don't know. I think it's part of the style, just the art style and the presentation that they dislike. And One Piece does try fairly hard to be as authentic and faithful to the original as possible. It genuinely does. Like, I actually believe they attempted to make a good adaptation. The issue is you can never bridge the gap between 2D and 3D when it comes to style. Like, there's simply no way to make a 2D anime fight look good with real actors. It is either going to look really hammy, like Chinese kung fu leaping through the ceiling on obvious wires, or it's just going to look like two dudes fighting, and then it's going to lose all of the anime spectacle. There is no middle room there, because, you know, real people can't stretch their arms out to be 30 meters long.
Yeah, even if you CG it, it just looks goofy, you know.
Yes, it looks obviously wrong, and
also certain other things, right? Like, so anime has a lot of like internal monologues. You can't do that in live action. It just sounds weird. It looks weird.
And also the presentation, like anime characters with a good voice acting. Like, have you watched One Piece anime?
Not a very long time.
Well, Luffy, the main character, he's very energetic. He's very classical anime. You know, he's very optimistic, like shouting out his finishing moves, etc., Nakama, etc. All this stuff. That works in anime, which is mostly, in many ways, an audible medium, where often you have like still pictures or tiny animations as they talk. A lot of your experience comes from the audio and the voice acting and the presentation, along, of course, obviously with the animations, but a lot of it is audible. When you try to do that over the top, super active, super like charitable, super upbeat character in 3D, it comes across as cringe and flat and unnatural. And the guy who plays Luffy really tries. He really does. Like, he tries his best to act like the anime character, and it comes across as if he can't act. Because no normal human being behaves like that. So let's see. Father Judge Prophet says, lads, does one consider a centrist a tourist? See, I quite like the label of centrist for myself, because it is the easiest way to describe somebody who isn't necessarily on the left or the right. But, well, the definition of the left. But who can have differing opinions on the subjects. Because I have not spent a lot of time figuring out the label for myself. I just usually approach whatever problem is at hand and think about it from my point of view. And most of the time, I end up in a relatively central position, where I can look leftwards and go, those people crazy. And I can look rightwards and go, those people crazy. So I like the term, even though it describes nothing. It describes nothing whatsoever, because, you know, if you're always in the center and the political spectrum moves, you will eventually be on the right. Like, I am on the right in the modern day context, for example.
So for me, that's also true. I also heard the opposite, right? Where I've heard like extremists on the right, for example, say that if you're ideologically devoted to remaining in the center, and the left pushes leftward, as they always do, then you will simply move leftward as well to remain in the center. So I've heard that critique come out of some right-wing people. So I probably am a centrist as well, but like the label doesn't really matter that much. You know, I'm a liberal. Specifically, I'm a liberal. All right. If that means that I am left-wing to you, then I'm left-wing to you. That's fine with me. To some people, it means that I'm right-wing, and that's fine with me too. Right. I don't care too much about where you fall on a spectrum. It's the ideas that matter. You know, it's the psychology, it's the philosophy, it's the policy. You know, these are the things that actually matter, not whether you're more left or more right. The left-right thing is just the tribalism, right? It's like, oh, are you on my team or not? That's all they're asking, and I don't care. You know, I'm probably not on your team. That's probably just the honest truth of it.
Femboy is trending on Twitter.
Is it?
Yeah, and I don't think I want to click on it. Marco Polo says, as a fellow Norwegian, do you think that Norway will stop drilling for oil? And if not, why? Also, han god lørdag. Thank you very much, sir. I don't think we will. Because I think there's enough normal people in Norway that look at the immense wealth we have and goes, I'd like to keep this. Simple as.
Hold on. Someone in the chat says, no one thinks you're right-wing, Dev. Yes, go talk to a bread tuber. They will tell you that I am a far-right neo-Nazi. They'll say I'm a racist, I'm a sexist, I'm a fascist. They'll say all that shit. There are
Service
definitely
guarantees
people out there who think
citizenship.
that I'm right wing. Absolutely.
See, the best way to fix this is simply every time somebody goes like, let's stop drilling oil, is to go, okay, allow me to show you what the world is going to be if we do that. And then you tax them 80% of their income for a year. And if after a year they still want to do that, great. You get to vote on it now. If not, well, you've learned a valuable lesson. Because that's what it would be like. You would be poor. Simple as. Like, Norway's entire economy was focused around fucking agriculture and fishing before oil. Our economy would be cut by more than a half, would be cut in thirds. Like, I hope people aren't that stupid, even as I see the evidence to the opposite every day. That was your first super chat, too. Thank you very much, Marco Polo. American Outlier says, hello, Arch and the gang. Hope you are all doing well. We are working on the storyboard for Volume 0. Also working on merch products to sell as well. Good to hear. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can come up with. Wayu Hayton says, as YouTube scrolls, hey, Arch, how did Big E live for so long before he got put on the Golden Throne? Plot? If you don't want to say anything else, I don't... Yes, unfortunately, I don't think there's any deeper reason other than he kind of needed to. It's the same way that people always live long enough to give a cryptical clue to the guy who's rescuing them. You know, it was... that. Beckett says, don't worry, Dev. Chat has Dev derangement syndrome. On a side note, what mods are you all looking forward to for Starfield? Hope there are good mods after everyone gets the horny ones out of the way. Well, attractive companion characters, remove the fucking filter, and if I'm being optimistic, non-shit gunplay. Those are my top 3.
So when I played Fallout New Vegas last, I played basically as a lolly with like drill hair, twin drill hairs. As soon as they bring back the character mods, then I'll be happy with it. I can play as my space lolly.
Dracos Luthor says they should never learn to code. I don't want them polluting my profession with their bullshit. Coders also need an analytical mindset. They don't have it. Well, we're just going to have to redefine code then, aren't we?
They're already coding. If you look at like the trans population, they're overrepresented in coding by like 50 times.
Programmer socks. Which Kibbs has promised he will wear, by the way. Just so you're updated on that too, Dev.
Oh, really? I'm not surprised.
Yep. The HRT fund is going quite well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. So, someone says, like, why don't you tell the guys calling you a Nazi that you're hated by the right wing? I do. It doesn't matter, right? So the extremists on the left say that anyone who is pro-capitalism is inherently right-wing. Even the most cucked social democrat who wants capitalism but wants high taxes, he's inherently right-wing. He's a reactionary. He has to be stamped out. That's what the leftist extremists see, right? The rightist extremists have a similar view. They view anybody who is pro-democracy as fundamentally left-wing because they're all like monarchists, right? They're all aristocrats on the extreme right end of the spectrum. So if you take both of those definitions into account, the center makes up 99% of people. That's like most political opinions, including all of the sane ones, are all centrist. And to be honest, I'm happy with that. I'm fine. I'm okay with that definition.
Vulture 1066 donates $1. Thank you very much, sir. Marksman 117B says, I remember what put Mass Effect on Fox's radar. Singapore banned the game over the lesbian relationship, and then Fox pounced, eager for any controversy. Fox News used to be the enemy. And hopefully they will be the enemy at some point again.
Service guarantees citizenship.
Elsa Serrano says, as far as I am concerned, Dragon Age Origins is the best game I have ever played. Best game ever? Probably not. But it is a fantastic game. That is no doubt. Dragon Age Origins is a great game, and I played through it, I think, like 4 times. So yeah, it's pretty good. Elsa Serrano also says Starfield will have the same development as Skyrim and Fallout 4. It will be utter crap until the modders get a hold of it to fix the bugs, and then the porn mods will make it the best sci-fi porn game ever. See, the issue is, Starfield isn't buggy. It's just a bad video game. And I hope the modders can fix it. We'll have to wait and see. And hey, being able to have violent sex whilst dogfighting in space will at least improve it somewhat. Red Viking says, we lost Kib's cheek, now we turn on dev. Hashtag breed dev, fresh cheeks. Breed dev.
No, I am not transitionable, sorry.
Oh, but you
Find somebody
are
after that.
bi, so breeding dev might be an easier time.
Yeah, but I only top. Sorry.
Well, chat is very ambitious. They might find a way. Cuban922 says, Starfield is Bethesda's best launch since Morrowind. People just use cope and recent bias how many mods it takes to make Fallout 3, Skyrim, Oblivion even good. All Bethesda games are a 7 before mods except Daggerfall and Morrowind. I do think this game has bigger problems than the previous ones. I really do, because the previous one still felt like a universe. This doesn't. There is something more fundamentally wrong with Starfield, in my opinion. I do hope the modders can fix it, and the worst, you probably are right, it probably is their biggest launch, and it probably will be a financial success, simply because a bunch of retards like myself purchased this game for $100, so there you go.
120 here. Jesus Christ.
Yep. And all of the other tards will have pre-purchased it, and all of the reviews are, of course, glowing. Well, actually, they aren't. They got a 7 from IGN, and a 7 from IGN is like a 3 out of 10 in a normal publication.
Especially since Bethesda probably gave them a big fat sack of money for that 7.
Yeah, so getting a 7 out of a mainstream media organization, that might be flashing some warning lamps somewhere. As I said, I am very interested in seeing the Steam reviews when they come out. I would bet mixed. I don't think mostly negative. I don't think it's that bad, but I would think mixed. Elsa Sorana says, hashtag breed with dev. Oh, a cooperative effort.
All right.
And he also says, Bugthesda is the embodiment of the phrase, good idea implemented poorly. Oh, in this case, it's bad idea implemented well. Again, Starfield isn't buggy. Did you have any crashes? I didn't have any.
No crashes, no. I've had a few bugs, though.
Oh.
And I've seen videos of people having bugs. There's been a pretty common bug of NPCs floating away.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I saw one NPC at a weird angle in a wall, but that was about it.
There's a guy who, one streamer wanted to upgrade his ship, but the NPC who he had to talk to was slowly floating into the sky. So he ran over. He was running over trying to get to him in time, and he couldn't do it. He just floated away. It's oh, I guess I'm not upgrading my ship today.
Vulture 1066 donates another $1. Thank you very much. $2 actually. Thank you. Scott the Kilt says, get rid of Todd Howard and let one of the guys that made Doom Eternal run the next Fallout and Elder Scrolls game. Things would improve. Probably. I hope we go to that weird other island in the next one. I hope we get the entirety of what's the name of the landmass? Citadel?
I think so, yeah.
And then we get the alien landmass with the weird serpent people, and we can invade it. That'd be fun. Serrano says, hey Arch, have you ever seen the music video It Just Works? It's by Chalk Eaters. I think you would like it. I have not, but I will look it up now. Serrano says, hey Arch, you know Spaceborne 2 is still out there for you to enjoy. Spaceborne 2.
Never even heard of that.
Spaceborne 2. Oh, that game. Yes, no, I have played it. It's very janky. It's got the same kind of idea of the entire galaxy. You can go anywhere, do anything, but you can also fly all over the place rather than just fast traveling. Mm-hmm. It's a promising video game. It needs a few more years in the oven because it's made by one dude, but that's a cool little idea at least, yeah. Vulture 1066 then becomes a member. He's been a member has been a member for 4 months. Thank you very much. Korgårda med Historia-kanal. The History channel is proceeding apace. It's a lot to organize. I'm trying to look into getting additional editors and animations and all sorts of stuff, so we already actually have 3 episodes now, I think, done, basically. They're edited, they're animated, everything's up and running, but I want it to be big. When I finally release it, I want it to just be like all the bells and whistles right out the gate. Elsa Solano says, Arch, the prawn modders will put those aliens in the game. Don't worry, the horns will rise. Oh. How did aliens finally get added to Starfield? Porn mods. I can see it. Italian Hayabusa says, the thing I hate the most about Starfield is the guns. Like, auto weapons do 5 and a single shot does 25 damage, etc. Yeah, I found the pistols did more damage than the assault rifles, which is a bit retarded, but well.
Yep.
Wartech Fine says, Starfield is on Game Pans in a few days. Game Pans? Game Pans? Game Pass?
Game Pass.
Game Pass.
Yeah. Xbox Game Pass, yep. It's coming out on the release day. Is it the 6th or the 5th or something?
6th.
Yep. So if you have Game Pass, if you pay whatever, it's like, what is it, $5 a month or something to access the Game Pass library, Starfield's going to be on it.
I mean,
play it that way.
That should have been a warning note for everyone, shouldn't it? Like, if you can play the game for practically free, it might not be the best of products.
Well, hold on though, because Hi-Fi Rush was on Game Pass, and that game was amazing.
Yeah, but it's not made by Bethesda, though.
Yeah, that's true. It is made by Shinji Mikami.
Scarfy the Strange says, so are games going back to being games instead of glorified movies you have to press X to watch? I mean, I hope so. I don't mind a good little cutscene story, though. You know, it depends on how well it's done. Like, if it's done poorly, it'll be really bad. If it's done well, it can work. CGI Lantern has been a member for 2 months and says, SAG-AFTRA video games strike with us, gamers, laughs in indie. Yeah, probably. It's like, what? Mm-hmm. You're going to strike the mainstream video game companies that release one video game every 3 years. Like, oh no. It'll be a 2-month delay. Black 1917 says, Hail ArchChrist, our Lord and Savior. Hail me indeed. I am the Lord of Savior. It's Lord and Savior of the games industry. Maybe? Possibly. NJ Gamer says, only Henry Cavill have power.
The answer.
What do you think about that idea, Dev? We'll just give all political decisions over to Henry Cavill, and the rest of us will just disengage from politics entirely.
Oh, Jesus. It'd be good. Maybe.
Yeah. I think that's a brilliant idea, honestly. Then we'll just create a dynasty of Cavills to rule over us. At least we'd get to enjoy our 40k in peace, you know? I'm all for this. Henry Cavill has my vote for Emperor of Humanity. It looks the part, too. Oh, God. Did you see they made an exception in the Screen Actors Guild strike for a website called Cameo.
I have lost.
Where you can pay an actor.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know what Cameo is, yeah.
Yep, between like $3 to like $3,000 to say hello to you in a video.
Mm-hmm. So YouTubers tend to use it to get videos of actors saying certain things to put in their videos. So for example, somebody who was making a review of a Ghostbusters game at one point got one of the actors who was in Ghostbusters to shoot like a little 30-second video. Cost him like $20 or something. He put it in, and it was pretty funny, to be honest. But yeah, Cameo it's been around for what, 10 years now, maybe 8 or 7 years. I don't know. But basically, it's been a source of great memes and hilarity. But the money goes directly to the actor. So and it doesn't. There's no middleman there. Maybe Cameo takes like a 5% cut or something, but it's not like there's a big apparatus behind it, right? So I think the reason they're giving actors abilities to still use Cameo is just because it's like Patreon for them, basically.
Yeah, I can sort of see that. The issue is it doesn't really engender any further sympathy when you see the actor claiming poverty is selling 20 seconds video snippets of himself for $1,000. It further complicates the whole thing. Elsie Sorano says, I believe everyone should have a chance to be miserable. Let them get married. Fair enough.
Sounds good to me.
Fan Anderson says, Arch, has V people invaded Norway as well? Every time I go back to Sweden, I see them outside every damn store. Make Sweden Lagorn. Sweden Lagorn again. We don't have a lot of Romania around here, no. We do have a lot of, Turks, Afghans, from that area. They seem to have found Norway very pleasing. In fact, we went out and actively recruited them for a while. They were... immigration centers in the Middle East and even in Africa that were actively handing out pamphlets hey, why don't you come to Norway? Which is... again, I am all for getting people that have actual hardships, people actually fleeing wars, etc. Fair enough. But when a dude has a job to go hey, would you like to come to Norway? We'll give you a free house. No. Scarf the Strange says, if you lift the boot off their face, they will put their boot on yours. That's a good way of describing it, yes. You must vehemently oppress leftists.
I think that was from the libertarian, reluctance to grab power conversation from half an hour ago or something. Yeah, something like that. It got a lot of people angry, but it's still ultimately correct.
But you must oppress the left. Simple as. They must be crushed beneath the boot of authoritarianism. If nothing else, to give them something to complain about. And then in 10, 20 years, we'll lift the boot and we'll go oh, I'm sorry, I don't even know why we did that. And then 20 years later, we'll go, yep, I remember now. It's the beautiful circle of political life. Black 1917 says, One Piece is the shonen genre, and Fluffy is based on Goku from Dragon Ball Z. This is confirmed by the author when asked how he thought up Luffy. There you go. He also says, drill hairs, I think you mean angel curls. Vulture 1066 says, when is the next Baldur's Gate 3 act coming out? As in when we do next stream. The next stream will be tomorrow. We do it on Sundays for the Baldur's Gate 3. If you're talking about story DLC, I have no idea. Elsie Sorana donates a very generous 50 Canadian dollars, thank you very much, and says the reason auto weapons are so lame in Starfield is the same reason they suck in Fallout 4. The devs balance the guns so that the DPS from semi-auto is the same from fully automatic settings. They do the exact same damage. That's retarded, but it makes sense. It's the entire point of an assault rifle is make more bullets. Yeah, I can see that. And lastly, at the very end there, no one says, games nowadays have a better storyline and less fetched quests than series like Ashoka. When did that go wrong? Who knows? Many years of slow decline. Starfield is, again, it's every bad idea of every previous Bethesda game taken to their logical conclusion. It's people are just fast traveling anyway, so we might as well turn the entire game into a fast travel system. And so they did. Well, people don't seem to complain that much about the filters we put on everything, so how about we just make it more filtery? And so they did. That is kind of the problem with Starfield. Right. We have now then actually managed to get through all of the super chats as well, with Dev still being here for once, little trader.
I'm actually very surprised.
Even though V had to run away screaming.
V had to run away screaming? Well, hold on. Let's get some more super chats then. How much more Dev derangement syndrome can I harvest?
Well, apparently 2 at least. Marksman of 117B says, Dev, I sent you a cameo.
Oh. I didn't know I had one, but okay.
Shorthead 555 says, I am a libertarian that have no problem putting the pudding boot barrel on the government and others. What does that make me, Dev?
Well, this is the thing, right? So there's a Stone Toss comic where it's like there's
Service
like the
guarantees
glove of
citizenship.
political power, right? And the libertarian says, I can't take it. That would go against my principles. I can't. And then a leftist comes over, puts it on, and then punches the libertarian out. Right?
I have lost.
And
Shit.
the lesson behind that comic basically is that you have to take political power. Doesn't mean you have to use it. Maybe you only use it defensively, but you have to take it. Because if you don't take it, the people who want you gone will take it. And that is
Heresy's
just
the
how
question.
politics
Fire
is.
is the
It's the
answer.
same way in a socialist state. It's the same way in a fascist state, in a liberal state. It's the same way in a monarchy. Any form of human organization works this way, all right? You have to obtain and hold power, or else you will be removed from it. That's just how it is. So there's like branches of political theory that's like it's there's like anarchist left, anarchist right. They have the same problem fundamentally. It's that what if there was no what if we just abolish political power? There was no power. It's like, well, guess what? Someone's going to organize and just roll over you. And that's how it is. That's just how it is, all right? It doesn't matter if you live in like the ANCAP paradise and you're out there with your farmstead and you
Service
have your
guarantees
shotgun
citizenship.
and you're ready to fight anyone who comes to take what's yours. All right? The libertarian paradise. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. 50 guys will roll in and take everything that you have because you're one guy.
Service
simple as that,
guarantees
all right?
citizenship.
Basically, I find like libertarian politics is interesting. I like the political philosophy, but their policy prescriptions are just hopelessly naive. They don't work in
Heresy's
any
the
way in the real
question.
life.
Fire is the answer.
Yep. Well, you have to use it. Democracy was created to be used, and you don't need to use it aggressively. Although maybe you should. Again, oppress leftists wherever you find them. Oppress them viciously.
So I mean, like sometimes you have to, right? Like, Sargon and I had this argument a couple days ago, where I pointed out that like every political system is the same in that they are intolerant of those who want to overthrow them. Doesn't matter what system it is. They all have the same reaction, right? Like liberalism is intolerant to those who are anti-liberal, right? Socialisms are intolerant to those who are anti-socialist. And if you are tolerant towards that which actively aims to destroy you, then you'll simply be destroyed by it. And that's the problem with anarchism. That's why anarchism just doesn't work. No stripe of anarchism works.
Thank you, Karl Popper.
Mm-hmm.
I still think my version is easier. Simply oppress leftists wherever they are. Whatever
That's
they
because
do.
they're your enemy, right? That's because they're your enemy, so that's why you want to oppress them.
Whatever they're doing, however they're doing it, oppress them now. It is the easiest solution.
Yeah, someone in the chat says libertarian dictatorship. Let's go. See, here's the thing. If you go down the libertarian reading rabbit hole, you do eventually get to Democracy, the God That Failed. You do eventually get to guys like Rothbard, who were just openly in favor of oppressive state power in the name of libertarianism, where it's basically, we get liberty because we're the good guys, and you don't get liberty because you're the bad guys. Because it's basically the pipeline from liberty to authority basically exists through the authoritarian, like the authoritarian capitalist right. It is sobering to finally realize what political power actually is.
In so many words, Dev also said, oppress communists. But Dev, I do believe this means you yourself will be oppressed.
I'm not actually a communist, despite that being the joke.
Well, we'll see what the camps have to say about that.
Dev, why aren't you an
says,
anarcho-fascist?
Fire
Oh,
is
so
the
someone asked why
answer.
I'm not an anarcho-fascist. Well, the main reason, that is a real political philosophy, by the way, but the main reason is because I'm a liberal, right? Like, there's progressives, they're also kind of like, they can be, not consistently, but they can be a bit weird about using political power. It's like, oh, we can't just oppress our enemies with political power. It's like, well, you can if they intend to oppress you, if they get it, right? Because liberals will say like, well, we need free speech, we need freedom of expression, we need free markets, we need what else? There's like freedom of association. We need freedoms to do things that, even if they're bad, the government shouldn't oppress you from doing. Which is all true, by the way, right? That's all true. But what that means is that you
Service
need some sort of
guarantees
state structure
citizenship.
in place that creates that neutral space that you can have those freedoms within. Because that neutrality doesn't exist in the natural world. You have to build it, right? So you need functioning state institutions to make any of this liberalism stuff work. Which is why I'm not an anarchist, any type of anarchist at all.
The real alternator says, Bad Arch, send the leftists to the mines and seal the entrance behind them. Never stop. Also, hi Black. Well, you see, there will be new leftists created amongst us. Even from our children will they spawn. This is why the oppression of the communist is an eternal task that can never end. That can never stop. The camps must never be closed.
I gotta go fire up my stream. I'll be back in a second or two to say goodbye.
Black Knight 17 then says, Hi Holznator. Marks117B says, check your Discord. It's about Rachel Dolezal. The whole Senate says, Dev, where do I send shorts for TikTok Tuesday? That is a good question. I shall DM that to Dev. There. McWell11 says, Dev, also hail Arch, our Lord and Savior. Hail. The real Holznator says, I think liberalism has been far too tolerant to those who want to overthrow it. See the success of leftists over the last 100 years.
Service
Absolutely.
guarantees citizenship.
You know, I hear we have made vast strides in the application of Cyclone. Just saying. One was apparently named Hillary recently, too. McWell11 says, thanks for Tanya. Much appreciated. You're very welcome. Elsie Serrano says, I vote Arch for Emperor of Mankind, endless war and oppression. And we will have no more problems with high energy taxes. Like under me, energy will be de facto free because the people working in the mines will be, well, oppressed leftists digging it up for us. And with no labor costs, well, we can burn as much coal as we damn well want.
I'm back.
Garfield the Strange says, Deb for centrist fascist dictator.
I have lost. see, the worst part is like, there's this conception, mostly on the left, but a little bit on the right, that fascism is just the use of government power, and like that's just stupid. I have lost. Shit, that's not how it is.
There was a question: how does people send you clips for TikTok Tuesday?
Send them to me on Twitter or DM me on Discord. Those are the two best places.
There you go. And which of your 11 Twitter accounts would this be, just for reference?
I'm currently on Sleepy Devo. I've just started up my stream, so I've got to get going in a minute or two. But I'll answer the last couple super chats.
All right, we only got
There's
like two more.
One for me. Yeah.
Marksman of 117p says, Deb, share the cameo I sent you. Arch will love it.
I don't have it, man. I have to share it next time.
He hasn't found it yet. And no one says, Dev, approach the objectivist's position, a strong state to enforce capitalism.
Yeah, that's like the Ayn Rand position, the objectivist. Yeah, where like you can't have like anarcho-capitalism. You can't go stateless because the state, on some level, is what guarantees property. You know, the fact that if your stuff is stolen, you can call the cops, or if your place is like burgled or broken into, you can call the police. You know, the fact that you register your property with the government. Basically, in order to have a capitalist system, you have to have a state, which is why the anarcho-communists want to overthrow the state, because they view it the same way. They view the state and the police as the institutions that make capital possible. So, but they're ultimately correct. You do need a state to have capitalism. You can't go anarchist at all.
And
that's just how it is.
Elsie Sorano says, Hey Arch, why do you think environmentalists don't want nuclear energy? Personally, I think it's because it would actually solve problems. Largely, yes. I mean, one of the reasons why we don't have as much nuclear energy as we maybe should, part of it is because it's very expensive. Like, nuclear energy plants are very large, very complex, and require a lot of stuff and a lot of training and a lot of safety measures. So there is an economic aspect to that as well, where you got to take into consideration how much it's going to cost to actually build something like that. But mostly it is because it is actually going to fix the problem. unironically, because this is again a question of political power. If you complain about, oh, environment, give me power, vote me into office, like all of the environmental parties, then solving the issue that gave you power is not going to benefit you, because they understand that you need to oppress your opposition. And so they do, vehemently. And they know full well that after everything they've done, we might just learn the lesson too.
Maybe. I think there's been a little bit less dev derangement syndrome from the chat this time around. Maybe they're getting used to me.
Because you've been more right today. You haven't, been denying any election-based facts, for example.
You mean by not denying the election? Is that
by having your harebrained ideas about institutions functioning,
Well, here's the thing, like, even if institutions don't function, you still need institutions. You can't abolish the concept of institutions. You might need to reform the institution, but you can't abolish the institution because the world's too complex nowadays, right?
Service guarantees citizenship.
Here, when we lived in prehistory, we didn't need institutions, right? Like if we're all hunters and gatherers, we're all. How do we know that? How do I know that the spear that Arch made me to go hunt a deer with is actually like a good spear? Well, guess what? I probably know because I've made spears before myself, right? How do I know that like the basket that my wife has weaved for me is a good basket? Well, because I've seen them before and I've seen how she weaves them, right? Every job in pre-civilization didn't require institutions to ensure that those jobs were done correctly because they were all very simple. And we're all dumb individuals. We're all stupid people, fundamentally. But in the real world nowadays, in our current society, everything is way too complex. All right, like when you swipe your credit card at the grocery store to buy your groceries, there's like at least a dozen different institutions that all have to be functioning properly in order for that transaction to work. And when it works, that means that everyone is doing their jobs in some unseen way that you will never actually understand. You'll never know. Because you don't have enough intelligence to know everything. Because every job has an infinite amount of complexity. And you only work a couple jobs in your life, really. So, you need institutions. You can't go without them. You can't abolish them. You can only make sure, as best to your ability, that they function properly. It's simple as that. So all this stuff about, we need to abolish XYZ, you're all retarded. All of you who say that are retarded. Because it's not possible. You literally have to go back to caveman times to live in a life without institutions.
And wouldn't that be a glorious alternative?
No, because I want video games, goddammit. I want modern life. I want like power and internet and cars. I want to be able to go to the grocery store and see a billion different foods and not have to go get it myself from the fucking forest. Like I like the modern era. It has brought so much good. We can manage the bad. We can deal with that shit, but it's brought so much good. We can't just get rid of it. Things are so much better now than they ever have been.
Thus the
Heresy's
communist
the
speaks and reveals his true
answer.
colors.
As being a modernist, I guess.
He is against the glorious return to our ancestral heritage.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, there's lots of people in the chat who say that they disagree with me, more or less politely. Sometimes more politely, sometimes less. And like, I'm fine with all of you. If you don't agree with what I say, if you want to pull out like alternate sources, we can have a discussion on what the actual truth is, because the truth is the truth. It is self-evident on some level, right? Like, you can say, I disagree, Dev. Here's what I think, and then we can have that discussion, right? That is a lot more tolerable than the person who simply says Dev is bad faith, because that implies that I don't believe what I'm saying, and I genuinely believe what I'm saying. I'm not sitting here being bad faith, all right? And there is definitely some people who say that Dev, you're just being bad faith. It's like, no, I'm not. No, we disagree. There's a difference. And then there are some people who have refused to watch as long as I'm here. They're like, Arch, I can't believe you have Dev on. How could you do this to me, Arch? How could? And to those people, they're just leftists, frankly. They have like a leftist psychology because they're out here crying about their safe space being violated. They're fucking snowflakes. But some of you are all right people, as Trump would say.
McWile11 says, but Dev, a strong state will be corrupted over time, resulting in current U.S. situation, or worse.
Of course. Like all power is corruptible. You just have to keep it in check. And sometimes that's uncomfortable, but you have to do it. You can't go without a state. You can't go without institutions.
The real also just said, I'd like to thank you for helping me see the foolishness of extreme libertarianism and instead embracing the truth of new golden cities.
All right. As long as they're all coastal ones, sure.
We can adopt this as Dev's newest stance. Simply destroy civilization.
Well, it's like a creative destruction thing, right? Where like you have an institution, it becomes corrupt over time. You have to like reform it. You have to cut out all the fat, and it will naturally become corrupt over time again. You have to do it again. You can like people who want to like build a thing and then set it and then leave it alone and just have it work. They're utopians. All right. Doesn't matter if they're leftist utopians or rightist utopians. It doesn't work. It never works. The world is constantly changing. People are constantly changing. So you have to constantly tweak the institutions to make sure that they're on the mark because they will drift over time. And them drifting over time is natural and normal and not a reason to abolish it. It's not a reason to disengage from society. It is, in fact, a reason to do your duty and fix them.
Vulture 1066 says, who is Dev anyway? That's a good question. What is a Dev?
My channel is called Short Fat Otaku.
Heresy's the
And actually,
question.
it is now
Fire
time for
is
me to
the
go.
answer.
I've got to skedaddle. Thanks for having me, Arch. I'll see you next time, okay?
Yep, see you next week.
Bye.
And lastly, McWild11 says, at Dev, abolish the bloated institutions so we can recreate it without bloat for a time. You're too big to foil is idiotic.
Before I go,
yes.
make sure to raid me, okay?
You know,
You guys all have to. You guys all have to watch me. No, make them all watch me because they're already mad at me anyway. Okay, I'll see you later.
See ya. See, you do have a point there, though. Like the thing is, we do actually need some sort of way to restart organizations after a certain amount of time, and probably it will simply happen naturally as things collapse. Because when you have an entire class of people whose only job it is to create legislation, for example, you shouldn't be particularly surprised when we get a lot of useless legislation. Because literally we employ 5,000 people just to invent new stupid fucking rules. And that is, in essence, our modern day mass governmental system. Actually, far more than 5,000 people, whose job it is to come up with new stupid rules. And we are going to figure out some way to reset it all at some occasional event.
I have lost.
Now, whether or not that is going to be through one means or another is yet to be seen. But remember, death is a preferable alternative to communism. So says the cute little anime girl. And thus it must be true. Necrono says, Dev, people need 3-letter agencies that we created to get rid of Al Capone is needed 50 years later of credit cards won't work. Or credit cards won't work. Yeah, no, sure. There are several organizations that should be abolished. The FBI, for example. America has like 15 different intelligence institutes, and it doesn't need 15 various intelligence organizations. It's simply superfluous to demand. Right, let's see. Who is streaming today? Who is streaming today? I raided Dev yesterday, so despite Dev's begging, I think it shan't be Dev. We owe Kib, then. Because we raided Pancake a while ago, so we owe Kib today, then. We shall raid Kib. As always, thank you all very much for watching. Thank you for your generous donations as well. And, remember, we have a future leader of humanity right here. We must all vote for Henry Cavill to take charge of everything. Or we need to build Archlander in a basement somewhere and give him superpowers. I take no responsibility for the genocide he may or may not carry out on the populace when he has a bad day, but it is an interesting alternative. Good night.